Welcoming back is Underexposed Cinematic Treasures, Mark Ogusch.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, howdy, stranger. I think I've just been abducted. I was not probed by the alien, though. I just only abducted. Joining from not a strong start, it's Jorge and Daniel.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Nice to be here.
Have you guys ever been mistaken for brothers? I know no one else can see what we're talking about. Okay.
No.
All right. Well,
it must be our beautiful smiles.
There you go.
It is definitely the handsome smile, yes.
Yeah.
A distractingly handsome smile. But who can blame him? We're talking about peak, beginning of Mr. Blockbuster himself, Spielberg's Alien movies. We're talking his initial hit, Close Encounters of the Third Kind from 1977. Basically the sleeper to the original Star Wars that same year. 1984's E.T. And then 2005's rehash of War of the Worlds. We just figured, hey, he's always explored aliens. He had the miniseries Taken, no, not the Liam Neeson movies, and for sci-fi. Then he did Falling Skies for TNT. He's always explored extraterrestrials, and it's just so wild how we see just so much of it in all these other blockbusters. I mean, whether it's an episode of The X-Files or whether it's a 2016's Arrival, there's always a blockbuster that just seems to just like, oh, that's the Close Encounters or ET shot. Just as we go around, we unfortunately we didn't know each other back then. We were seeing each other on the social medias, but I did not have this initial Spielberg panel. Let's circle around. So Mark, what was your first encounter with Steven and his work?
With Steven and his work?
Yeah, before you got into these movies.
Steven Spielberg was a major part in my falling in love with movies.
Right.
In 1985, we discussed on another podcast episode, you and I, Peter Weir, and it was Peter Weir's Witness that really woke me up to what movies could do, and that was the first. And then only a couple of months later came the second, which was The Color Purple.
Yes.
And I had known, his earlier work. I knew, E.T. and Close Encounters and stuff like that. But at that point in my movie watching, it was just all about just watching, sitting back, enjoying, not really thinking about stuff. And now here comes Steven Spielberg, who's known for popcorn movies, I guess you would say, doing The Color Purple. And it's one of those movies that is perfectly shot. The music is fantastic. It's got one of the greatest scenes ever in cinema history, and that's when the two sisters come back together.
Yes,
it's
very poignant, very emotional.
It's one of the few times that has ever made me actually cry when watching a movie. And from there, I was kind of like, because now I'm in my discovering movies phase and discovering my passion movies phase. I couldn't wait for Empire. The Sun came to come out, and I started just exploring, going
way
back. And exploring his earlier movies. And, when you're watching stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. and all that, you can't help but fall in love with movies because nobody really does movies better than Spielberg. He's not my favorite director. That's Peter Weir. But when it comes to knowing how to tell a story and construct it, and there's nothing like watching a Steven Spielberg movie when it's good. Because when I watch Hook, I kind of question. But then you watch something like E.T. or Close Encounters or even War of the Worlds, which we're going to discuss today. And these are movies that it's just like, this is a master craftsman who knows how to tell a story, and it's so easy to just fall into those worlds and escape the world that we live in for a couple of hours and forget everything that exists when you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. Come on, that's total escapism.
It's a blockbuster with heart. He said he was making a B picture, but he was doing so much detail. It was more than just a serial homage. It was great.
What Spielberg taught me was how important. Basically, what I love about Spielberg is it's very evident in a movie like E.T., where he takes very blockbuster ideas, like spaceships and Raiders. It's chase scenes and stuff like that, but he also makes them very personal. E.T. is an incredibly personal story, and so he mixes the blockbuster with the art house, and that's why it's so easy to fall into him as a master storyteller. He's definitely, arguably, with the exception of maybe Kurosawa, Spielberg probably has the best understanding of how this medium works when you watch his stuff.
Yeah, he's figured it out. He's figured out the marketing, figured out the themes, figured out the shots, figured out even effects. You see so many other people who would. I wanted to, growing up, I wanted to see anything by Lucas, John Williams, and Industrial Light and Magic, and half the time you'd see those, and you're just like, yeah, it's just not cutting the mustard.
And I think the only reason I say, hey, Peter Weir's my favorite, so Spielberg's not my favorite, Peter Weir's, is because he's got more of a accurate track record of great movies, whereas Spielberg still does have like movies like Hook, which I didn't really like, or Munich I didn't really like. He still has it in 1941, whereas Weir is more I think there's only one Peter Weir movie I've ever not liked. And so when Spielberg gets it right, I mean, he gets it right. I mean, arguably, if I were to list you my favorite movies, a lot of them would be Spielberg movies. Raiders, Close Encounters, which we're going to talk about today, is literally one of my all-time favorite movies. And I revisited it last night for the show, and it's still,
our MVP.
It stands up so well.
Absolutely. So, Daniel, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk Spielberg, it encompasses so much about childhood, especially with
cinema porn. That's what I call it.
It really is. He gives us all those kind. It is. He gives us all those kind of feels, and E.T., Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park. Like, this is the stuff that I grew up on, like big time, and what helped inspire me to want to get into film, right? Because you can sit there and watch movies, but there's something special about Spielberg. It's that Spielberg magic. He's so good with characters and building realism in a surreal plot line. So, like,
using
sort of what Mark,
same usual suspects, even in a different way. Some of the times they'll make a cameo, and you're like, "Wow, that was a darker Williams score he used there." Whoa, Tom Hanks was the bad, or Tom Cruise was the bad guy this time around. Whoa, something like that.
And he dabbles in like every genre, and the fact that he has like a hit in almost every genre. I mean, we're even talking Saving Private Ryan. Like, the man has done so many. So even though there are some movies, especially within the last decade, maybe we haven't felt he's necessarily been on his A game. The man's been doing this since the 70s.
Aliens.
Although, as we discussed before we started recording, he's back on his A game with this new one.
Yes.
Fablemans.
I've been stoked about this one. I've been excited. I know on our own podcast, when we talked about most movies that are coming out that we're excited for, I mentioned this one. Because I'm like, I feel like Spielberg's back with it. I want to get that. And Ready Player One, for instance, I love the book reading it. I didn't love the movie necessarily. I thought he did an okay job, but he missed some of a little bit of that. And I don't know if it's because he's been doing this for so long, but a little bit of that kind of Spielberg magic.
I don't think he took it as serious.
Maybe that's what it is.
And I mean, I call it, that's more of a Zach Penn movie. That's part of his Free Guy, Last Action Hero saga. The character awakens their humanity through a virtual atmosphere.
I really liked Ready Player One. So
it's fine.
It's fun.
Everyone varies. It's all good.
I still go back to it, but I feel like if Spielberg would have done it in the 90s, it would have been very different. And when Spielberg was around that... Yeah, and when he was around that 80s, 90s, it's just so nostalgic for somebody like me growing up on it. So exactly what Mark was saying, that he may not necessarily be my favorite, but I still consider him absolutely one of the greatest of all time, just because of what he's done, the amount of filmmakers that he helped inspire.
I'm with you guys. Even when someone says, "Oh, he hasn't done anything in a while, he's not relevant anymore," I'm like, "Oh, get out of here." There's
there's so many copycats.
I think that's what it is. I think they're spoiled and they see an Abrams movie or they see someone else and like, but you know what they're emulating, just like
Stranger Things. Like Stranger Things pulls from all that. Like everything's pulled from this, and you see so many Spielberg isms. You know what I mean? Like you see it peppered throughout all these.
That's a Jaws shot. That's a Gremlin shot. That's a Poltergeist homage.
Exactly. You see it. You see the homage. You see the shout outs to Spielberg, and he helped inspire so much of what our culture now just absorbs and eats. And that's the stuff that even the younger generation that
maybe they deep fry it at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
As many years as he's been around, I talk about consistency. And because there are movies of his that I feel like he could have done better. Like, I thought he was a perfect director for Hook, and then I didn't and think he really pulled it off.
Yeah.
But considering how many movies he's done, he's still a strong filmmaker, because even if you kind of saw weaknesses in Ready Player One, name me how many directors could have done a better job than he did. You watch something like BFG and you're kind of like, I don't know what happened to Spielberg.
Yeah,
but then only a couple of years later,
that was for his grandkids, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
exactly. A couple of years earlier, he did Lincoln, and Lincoln is a strong director at the top of his game.
Love it.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, for as many years as he's been around, he's, like I said, with this latest one, he's still very, very strong, and he's
a walking storyboard. He's always finding a new shot, and he's like, I know we can get that. And like you say, he wants to be diverse. I'm still waiting on him to do a violent Western, just one of these days, or just something some genre he's always wanted to do that he's only done small homages. Like, I think as close as he gets to a Western is probably the horse riding segment of Last Crusade.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, you're probably talking about Last Crusade.
That's a John Wayne. That's a John Ford shot.
I want him to do his James Bond movie. I don't understand why.
I know.
The broccolis, man, that you can't suggest it. They got to take it from you.
Yeah. That would have been sweet to see.
All right,
but,
right. Well, and anytime he just puts his name on something, you're like, I can totally understand why he would put his name on something like United States of Terra or some other TNT miniseries. He's figured out the A-game, Band of Brothers.
He's got
any
his hands
war
in
film,
everything.
he's going to knock it out.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. He just totally gets it. He kind of has a little bit of like John Hughes just really understood characters. He understood people.
Understood high school. And
Spielberg gets that. Like he gets
understood
people.
40s, Frank Capra type crowd pleasers and Kurosawa epics. Yeah.
I just want someone to explain to me his love for Michael Bay. He keeps giving Michael Bay work.
I can actually explain that. Michael Bay.
I don't hate Michael Bay either. There's some work that, he's good at what he does. I just
13 Hours is fun.
Great visual, yeah. The Rock was good.
Basically, Michael Bay is if you take David Ayer, more racist, Oliver Stone, George Lucas, Spielberg, insert any other violent action movie guy, Canon Films, and that's Michael Bay. That explains why he does something that divides an audience like Pain and Gain, or like you say, giant robot explosions and asses and awesome cars. So, and I say this with love for Ambulance, but I know what you mean. Where he was a and to your point, I don't know how he even worked with him after this. He was apparently, Michael Bay was the storyboard artist on Raiders. And Michael Bay jokingly said, I think this movie's going to suck based off what you've had me draw.
He needed.
I think he liked it, but he just making it. He was
like, you need 3 times as many cuts.
I don't know if it's
Michael Bay. That's
Jewish filmmaker. I don't know.
Michael Bay he just cuts too fast. But the fact
visual porn. It's visual porn. It's quick. It's like stop. It's building up that whole adrenaline, but it loses story.
He needs to do the Expendables 5.
No, he does not. I like the Expendables movies.
I know. I'm
just an explosion at every bicep. That's all.
Everybody. That's it.
That's what I'm thinking. Jason Statham, Antonio Banderas. Bad Boys Expendable. I don't. Expendable Boys. There you go.
That's it. That's
all right. So, Jorge, sorry we got sidetracked. What was your introduction to the movie geek before it was cool to be a geek?
For me, I was born in '83, so probably 2 to 3 years once I could start to like watch things.
You're already ahead of me, brother.
Keep them in here.
I'm a stupid millennial. I don't know anything.
It was probably between like Jaws and E.T. I can't recall which was the first one I saw, but I knew it was one of the two of them for sure.
Did your parents accidentally kick someone in front of them by accident, like my mother did infamously?
Oh no!
Back in the day,
no.
Okay.
No accidental kicks in the house. No.
Kick out the screen.
I come from a horror family household, so there's no fear whatsoever. But a thing that always
Here's the Jorge dead.
You guys see the human organs behind me right now.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's a lot of McFarlane movie maniacs. I think there's a Ninja Turtle in there somewhere. No, that's Spawn. No, that's Venom. Oh.
It's Venom. Yeah,
I don't know my comic books.
I have a bunch of geek stuff behind me. But yeah, I remember the thing that like I always loved film as a kid, and the thing that always stuck out with me with Spielberg is just how he was able to command his crew, especially with kids. No other director directs kids the way that he does.
Instead of having them follow the script, he'd just say, "You're going to ad lib. How would you want to talk about going to the zoo with your grandparents?" Something like that. He just
it was he understood how to relate to them, and I always thought that was very important and cool because like I was a stage kid, and the directors I would work with on stage, they were horrible. They wanted you to act like them. Yeah. And it's just like, but I'm like 5 years old. A kid's not going to do this.
Absolutely. You see so many movies, and you'd see the filmmakers use the worst possible take, and you've been there all day, and you're like, yeah, did you even look at the dailies? Yeah,
that's something I always admired about him. Is just understanding. Like I've managed sets before, and the biggest mistake I feel like a filmmaker can do is not realize the strengths of all of the people around you.
Everyone
and he's someone who truly does. Like having John Williams on most of his stuff, genius. It's like this guy knows how to create
even when he uses other
sound.
guys.
Yeah, it's like he knows what he's doing. Like he knows everybody and how to use them to their fullest. And I feel like that's a huge thing that people don't get to really realize and see because you're watching this thing, but you don't know what he had to move around to make all these pieces work. For a man who was making
sci-fi and war pictures, in his backyards and making it look like his kids, were jumping off of a beach, it just. It was always a part of him, but to your point, anyone who I know who's ever like talked about working with him, like they've always, if they didn't like it was just probably just a minuscule one, like, hey, I was there for the reshoots, I didn't get to actually meet him, or my scene got cut, still got credit, but I'm barely in the film, but for the most part, almost anyone who's actually worked one-on-one with him, you're like, the man can't stop complimenting everybody. That is such a rarity because you hear all these other guys and you're like, oh, I love you. I love your work. But why are you such a prima donna behind the scenes? And why does everyone, hear about your temper tantrums? You're not going to, if you saw a tabloid the next day saying Steven shanks a guy who, insulted his wife, Kate, you're not going to believe that.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, move on, TMZ.
He's like, he shanked you with genius. That's what he did. He took something bright.
He throwed your mind and said, you work for me now. And he's not a Joel Silver, or Bruckheimer type either. He doesn't get spoiled on you. Like if you work for him, he's like, yeah, if you want to pull it out of the water. I heard the Jay from Broken Lizard talked about making Easter Sunday for his company, and he got a hysterical note for him. It's comedian Joe Coy making his debut as an actor, and the only note he got from actual Steven, he was working with his people for the most part, but the only note he got from Steven was he saw a shot where someone was wearing a ball cap, and his note was, movie stars don't wear hats. That was it. Everything was good. That's his only note.
That's funny.
Well, it's weird because he talks about, because Jorge was mentioning performances of kids, and there's like two directors that get amazing performances from people, David Cronenberg and Steven Spielberg. And like when was the last time you saw a bad performance in a Steven Spielberg movie, with the exception of the lead in West Side Story, the lead guy? You don't see bad performances. I remember much. You don't see bad performances in a Steven Spielberg movie. And the strange thing is I read somewhere that he doesn't do rehearsals, because he doesn't think that he's going to be able to duplicate the magic that was done in the rehearsal. He doesn't do a 2-take like a Dick Wolf show. He doesn't do a, and it's weird because, and I don't remember if it was him or not. For some reason, I want to think that it was him that said that if there's, I'm going to believe it. Well, no, there was some director said, and for some reason, I think it was Spielberg, that if a actor gives a bad performance, it's actually the director's fault, because he's supposed to, be directing the guy. He's supposed to be getting that performance. And you just don't get, Whoopi Goldberg, she gave a great performance in Ghost, but how many great performances has she given? She's giving good performances, but in The Color Purple, oh my God, amazing. And in that scene where the two unrecognizable together, that is just perfection in acting on her part.
Yeah. And Oprah was phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah, they all were phenomenal. She went on to be a talk show host, and you're like, where did this happen?
But the thing is you just look at the performances in his films, and they're just phenomenal. And a lot of times they're by actors who aren't that good in a lot of other stuff.
Absolutely. And that's where I'm like, you can tell when someone, somehow they get the ones who've been, we always hear about, they've phoned it in, they misbehaved, they're just not believable. And it's like if Aaron Sorkin can give you great dialogue, if Scorsese can cast you in the most unrecognizable role of your entire career, he is like, Steven's no exception. He is always just, in some ways, he's made these guys his career or given them an extra boost, especially when they, are unable to follow it up with a more successful project or a movie where it's just not them at their best. It's like, hey, you'll always have that, and he'll welcome you back. Like, he never forgets someone. I lost track of how many times I've seen Del Dye, who's like the tactical advisor in some of his movies, just show up as playing a soldier or general. I've lost track of, like you say, some of these other guys. I mean, with the movie we're discussing tonight, this is his second foray with Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah,
working on his movie. He works with him again on Always, but it's just interesting just how, with all these performers you got, not only is it one of their best roles, it's definitely going to be number one on their demo reel, but it's also one of those where it's like, is this, when he keeps using the same people, you wonder, is this my favorite performance by them?
Right, but when you look at his movies and you see, now he does use a lot of great actors a lot of the time, but one of those actors who's gone on, and I'm trying to think of a name, but I actually don't want to put anybody down, so I won't. But there's been a couple where it's like they've gone on to do other movies, and then they
why'd you do all this direct video stuff?
But in Spielberg, but in the movie they did with Spielberg, they were amazing, and you got to think that it's the director really working with them and really drawing that performance out. And God, I just wish I could remember
the
where
only one he'll never work with again is Julia Roberts on Hook. But other than that, I've never heard anyone's say.
And then you got to wonder what that was about, because they didn't get along. I'm sorry. I hear creative differences between actors and directors, and it's like, wait a minute, you're working with Steven Spielberg. Why is there a creative difference here? Why are you not just?
Why is there a shadow of a doubt? Since he loves to play to the actor's persona, let alone give you something meaty to say. So I don't know.
Yeah. And it's sort of a random actress, because Julia Roberts, you don't really hear her getting in tiffs like that.
Tom Cruise, so I don't know how that happened, but
that's what I mean. Like, Julia Roberts as far as I know, she seems pretty nice behind closed doors and when she works on set. So it's kind of a weird.
She's been in so many great roles for Soderbergh, so it's like I don't know what happens here, but
But you never know, because that when she was doing Hook, she was at a certain point in her career. And I was just talking about this with the other day, is sometimes these actors, when they're being told they're great by everybody and they're being approached on the street saying you're great, you're great, you're great, sometimes that can kind of start to kind of maybe think it, and maybe she was in a certain period in her life. We don't know without talking to her.
Getting
her side of it. For all we know, she was having a bad day when that situation.
Who knows? Maybe she got into the movie and didn't want to do it, but she couldn't say no because her agent was cutthroat. I don't know.
Could have been.
We'll never know. A lot of Hollywood variables. See a memoir.
She really channeled that Tinkerbell, and she took it to heart.
Yes, it did.
Or maybe she realized that, man, Spielberg makes all these great movies, and I get put into the one where it just doesn't feel very.
Maybe.
Sorry, people are probably going to hate me. People are probably
I get it. It's
a lot of people love Hook, so.
I like parts of it. There's other parts I don't like. I just feel like Robin Williams doesn't know if he wants to do the whole Indiana Jones thing half the time for that movie.
I can't get past the production design in the way it's lit, because it just looks so fake. And so
it is very bright at times where you're like, okay, closed off set number one.
Play like,
But I know people who love it. I like, oh my God, it's one of my favorite films growing up, they'll tell me. And it's like, okay.
It's got a nostalgia factor to it at this point.
So.
You're right. Hey, we all love goofy, supposedly bad movies.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, we were talking for the first part of this Close Encounters. How many around you have made potato jokes, and instantly, you're making a Close Encounters joke?
Unfortunately, not everyone in my group, my close group, film buffs, but my family and other friends, they don't get that kind of stuff. My dad, who's seen the movie plenty of times, he won't get those kind of references. It doesn't stay in the head. He's watched it probably a million times, but it doesn't stay in here.
The lights and the sounds, that's what he'll remember.
My uncle and mother would make a joke. My sister wanted to see like an anniversary screening of it, and we were like, I've seen it. I'm not sure I want to see it in the theater. I want to see some of these other Steven films remastered in the theater, but I saw it on a Good Times Home Video edition. That's how that copy was that I saw back in the day. Back in late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, I mean, I never minded it. It was always a feel good, easygoing movie. It's even wilder how many bit parts there are for all these other ones, like Bob Balaban, Carl Weathers, and even Lance Henriksen. It's like one of their earlier movies, the blink and miss it moments.
Yeah.
Seems like everyone.
It's strange that you didn't mind it, because it literally, in my opinion, is Spielberg's best film.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good
in every way, shape, or form. I mean, I understand love for, Jaws and Schindler's List and all that. I just feel like for some reason, when I'm done watching Close Encounters, I'm ready to put it in and watch it again.
Right?
It's got a fair share of adventure in it. It's got real characters that feel real. And the last 30 minutes or so is, I wouldn't change a thing, kind of filmmaking.
Even with the special edition, like the changes are just like there, like
there I would
shots,
because I wouldn't go into the spaceship. To prepare for this episode, I actually watched the director's cut for the first time, because I've always been a theatrical cut. You got to see the theatrical cut. You got to see the theatrical cut. Whenever I went to the movies to see it, because they play a lot of midnight movies. When I first moved to California, there was a theater that would play it at least once a year in midnight movies, and they always played the theatrical. And so now I'm watching the director's cut, and the director's cut, I actually didn't feel a difference. I do know where some of the differences were, but it's a strong movie. And the last 25 minutes, which I don't think any filmmaker today would be able to get away with, because it's just because they'd be using all these digital effects, and the reason it works is everything feels so real. Nothing feels like it's not present.
Yep.
And it's everybody looking at these spaceships in wonder. I mean, it's not like spaceships zooming around and all sorts of stuff. It's just, oh my God, what is this that's in front of us? And because it was done all practically, it really feels that way. And when you watch it on the big screen, that 25 minutes is kind of like, oh my God, what are we watching? What are we looking at? This is fantastic. And you got characters you're relating to. It is such an amazing film. And, Spielberg's got a lot of amazing films, Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that. But this, to me, I think he does everything right. And then everything that he does right in all those movies seems to be present here, too. And Raiders of the Lost Ark, you leave and you're kind of exhausted now. So you don't necessarily want to watch it again for a couple of days. But this one, it's over, and it's kind of like, oh my God, I want to sit through that again.
It's almost like a music video without the roboticness of what we often music videos become. No. Close Encounters. Just it's a mystical rhythm, and it just slowly starts adding extra beats to it, and then you just go along.
Quite literally at times.
But
no better use of Williams's music than Close Encounters. I think I prefer other scores better. But that's like if you're listening to it on its own, you might prefer something like E.T. better. But when it comes to how it's incorporated into the movie, its importance in the movie, and how it works within the movie, it's Close Encounters. And
not a single track sacrifice. There's so many Star Wars tracks you don't really hear in full unless you play like one of the video games,
We did used to do a podcast called Talking Apes, where we talked about Planet of the Apes, and we did a whole episode on
Great score by Goldsmith, right?
Yeah, we did a whole episode on that, and my whole review of the Planet of the Apes score by Jerry Goldsmith is you cannot listen to that score on its own. It's just a bunch of noises. But inside the movie, it so effectively moves everything forward. It sets a tone. It sets
fair enough.
And that's what a score is supposed to do. And so, E.T. might be more pleasurable to listen to, on its own. But
it's music.
If you didn't have the score, Spielberg says that 50% of the success of Jaws is the score. I think it's the same here with Close Encounter. I think if without that score, it's not the same movie.
I'd actually, to go on to your point, I used to be in the marching band when I was in high school. And one of the ones we ended up doing was a John Williams set.
You were good at. I could never do.
We're shaking hands. I was a trumpet player.
Virtually shaking.
But one of the
thumbs up.
We played the John Williams scores, and it was Close Encounters and E.T., and then it was like Jurassic Park and all the other stuff. But when our conductor was talking about this music specifically,
Mhm.
Everything else is just music. This is a conversation. It's like
It's
this
an
is a character.
interaction, yes.
Yeah, it's like this song right here is an actual conversation, and you're this is like pretend you are a person, and this is how you speak. And I thought that was so interesting, and I watched the movie differently after that. After having that talk with her, I was like, I never thought of it that way, and it's like it's
Right?
so true. Like this is another character in the movie. You know,
Yeah, that whole
this serves a purpose to the story.
Yeah.
It's so important to how they communicate with the ship and all that stuff. And it's like, with Williams, when he does a score for Spielberg or anybody else, nobody's better at him than in creating a theme. But a lot of times the theme can take over. Like, how many times have you heard dan, 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 and you're
Yeah, that's a indie cue.
Yeah.
but here it never takes over. It's it's a piece of the whole. And that's what I mean by when I say this is Spielberg's best movie is he was really incorporating everything, the editing, because I think it was his first time working with Michael Kahn, the cinematography, Vilmo Zsigmondt, amazing cinematographer, and just the way everything's together, the performance he got out of that kid, who's taken away, and Melinda Dillon's really good, and Terry Garr's really good. It's just, I want to say it's a perfect movie. There's some continuity issues, but you never know. The average person is not going to notice them because you're so drawn in by how everything is so perfectly worked on an emotional level. And it's not really a kid's movie the way E.T. is. This is
No.
film. It's
It's just PG because there aren't any boobs or gore. Yeah,
it's an adult blockbuster. I mean it's geared towards adults, it's an adult film. It's geared towards adults. It's got adult adventure and it's adventure. I don't think anybody under the age of 12 is going to really not be bored by this film, but over the age of 12, you're going to be like, wow, this is it's not talking down to me. The aliens aren't big baddies who are just shooting everything up with a lot of special effects.
Makes use of Devil's Tower National Monument.
It's just a very smart film. It's for adults. It's I'm with
you. The joy is earned. It's not, it's a different kind of feel good than, how he might do nowadays, where it's like, okay, not sure that was earned, but I love you anyway. It's like here you're just like, this is a communication. This is like you say, the orchestra complements the editing as opposed to, getting a little too cute for its own joy. It's just, and like you say, I've never heard a single person say this movie is boring. Never.
No, I mean, unless if it's really young kids, maybe, and they're not quite understanding
the most I've heard is people talk smack about Jurassic Park or Jaws or Private Ryan.
With this,
they probably weren't ready to watch it.
For this, people under 12 in today's age, because everything out there has to be so fast paced.
There must be an explosion in every frame. And then they complain that there's too many explosions. I'm like, well, what do you want?
If there's not CGI all over the place and, people fighting and all that every 5 seconds, and if they can't watch it on their cell phone, by God, please do not watch this movie on your cell phone. Matter of fact, I watched it on my TV.
When I watch something,
it still takes away seeing it on my big screen TV. When you watch this on a big screen in a theater, and when this came out, I don't think people understand this. So when this movie came out, movie theaters were movie theaters. Nowadays,
you had to.
The biggest screen around where I live is about half the size of the normal screens when I was growing up. When you go see The Fabelmans, there's a shot where they pan across a movie audience, and there's like 2,000 people in this theater. That's what movies used to be. And the IMAX screens of today, that was a regular screen when I was growing up in the 70s. And so imagine seeing Close Encounters, like they just released Jaws on the IMAX screen. Imagine seeing Close Encounters on the IMAX screen.
I'm sure it's beautiful.
That's going to be the best experience you're going to get in today's.
Especially with the surround sound. And like what you were saying, there's music and then there's film scores. It helps elicit the emotions of the scene. It helps push the story along. It helps complement the characters and the passion you're feeling. It doesn't distract you from it. And too many movies now, the music is just all distraction. It becomes almost like a glorified music video.
And you don't know if it's
too loud,
theater
explosions,
or proper mixing, digital flipper.
Oh yeah.
Like it's sort of Nolan, and we don't hear the dialogue.
Oh yeah,
exactly. It's sort of what we talk about with horror, right? Like with horror movies, where they just do like the pop-up scares. It's such a cheap way of getting your horror pop rather than the drawn out building that tense moments. They just go for the quick thrills. Yeah, quick thrills.
Oh man.
Yeah, I say tagging on to what Dan and Mark were saying too about the whole thing with being the children and being a child and watching it and then watching as an adult. I remember watching this as a kid and asking my parents, I was like, he's not coming back to his kids.
Yeah.
Like he forgot about his family. Like his family doesn't know what's happening to him. No. They don't know where he's going, or like they have no idea that he's
like complimenting the 50s style version of what today would be, Bolo. Yeah.
Well, Spielberg says if he were to make the movie today, he wouldn't have that ending. He would.
He's just too close to it.
He would go back. He'd have to go back to his family. But to me, I don't think it would work
because there's nowhere else to go. Like he's already. Yeah. We can't. They don't. I wouldn't say he's unhappy, but he's dissatisfied.
Yeah.
He's a kid who's now grown up who wants adventure. He's got a boring adult life.
But I don't think it would. If he doesn't go into that ship, there's no the ending has no power to it.
Yeah.
Like there's no emotional anything to it. The only way you can do it now without him going into the ship is you'd have to change his character completely.
Yeah.
So it would make sense.
A rewrite.
And then you wouldn't have the same movie. And so the character he's created, if he didn't go into that, because I was thinking about this when I was done watching it. I'm like, if he doesn't go into that ship, then there's no emotional value here. What is all this for?
Right.
Just the spectacle of seeing it.
I think I don't know what else he would have. Yeah. If it had just been, I wave at you and you guys take off, that would have been, well, you could have told that story in 20 minutes,
Yeah.
And even that ending, it's always been like a great conversation piece. Like, would you have gotten on that spaceship?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Knowing it.
That's the question.
I'm the guy that goes into it. Like, I need to know for the sake. I need to know what it is. I'm going into that black hole. I need to see it.
You might regret it afterwards, but
you might regret it. But at least I know what it is.
Enjoy the ride, baby.
Yeah.
For all we know, they were set up for a sequel.
I live long enough.
Yeah.
Right.
I always felt the sad thing is that the family never got to see that he wasn't crazy.
I mean,
they'll always think on their end, it's like our dad went crazy.
I'm sure
if the news reports it, you got to think in that timeline, the news wasn't like it is now. They were keeping it so hush hush that the regular world was never going to know.
So you're saying TMZ wasn't there, George? Is that what you're
saying? there were certain things that happened that would make it so people would have to know, like everybody who was returned didn't age and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, people would know. But I never thought about this until it's Jorge, right? Until you were saying what you were saying, but he leaves and the family's just gonna think he disappeared.
Yeah,
it's not like an alien spaceship came and got him. He just like ran away. They're gonna the family's now gonna think he abandoned them. Yeah. I never thought about that before.
Went out for a pack of cigarettes and never came
back. So
ruined the movie for me.
Well, they abandoned him first, so in all fairness, it's okay.
Well earned.
Yeah.
The aliens appreciate it.
Yeah, but those poor kids, like they just think my dad went crazy. That's their story as they grow up. Is my dad went crazy, and that's it.
Feeling abandoned.
Yeah,
feeling abandoned.
Poor bastards. Well, hopefully he raised a few aliens.
Who knows? Maybe he'll come back in 10 years and everything will be okay.
Right. I'm sorry you're a bastard, but hey, and let me introduce you to all these other family that you'll really love.
Maybe his kid knows how to do the math problem now.
Sorry,
has anybody seen the version where they go into the spaceship?
I think I saw part of it. I don't know if it was playing on TV one lazy afternoon. I'm not sure, but I definitely looked like there's some different footage. Well, it's not as glaringly apparent as, say, the ET where he erases the guns and has them with flashlights.
Thank God we got the original version back for that. But I think
that was just to get a PG rating in theaters, kind of like how when he re-released Jaws in a anniversary screening, he got an R, so they couldn't let anyone in. And it's like, really?
I never heard.
Well, then by this classification, every other James Bond movie's rated R.
But I guess they took some scene. Well, I mean, I know I've seen it. So they took some scenes out. They added some scenes in that he really wanted to put in, and then he made. In order to do this, he agreed to do the interior of the spaceship, and then the director's
make it work as well.
He put some of those scenes back in that he took out originally so that they could make room for the scenes inside the spaceship. But when you go inside the spaceship in the movie, it just feels so tacked on. You can tell this is a
what
filmmaker
doesn't match
really-
up.
Well, it's just that it's so uninspired
Gotcha.
when you're inside, and so. But then again, you think about it, it's like the reason it needs to be left to our imagination is because there's no way he could have shown us anything that would have made us say, wow, you know, 'cause how do we know what's there? And so you leave it to the viewer's imagination. And so I did, because I have the 3 movie set. And so I watched
Jealous.
it a number of years back, and it was one of those things where it's like, well, I never need to watch this again. I'm always going to go back to that theatrical version last night when I watched the director's cut. And now I don't know, either one. I think that people are trying to decide between the director's cut and the theatrical. I think either one. You know, I think you're in good shape with both of them. Just don't go to the special edition.
Duly noted.
Fair enough.
Write that down.
I mean, it does sting how, you know, sometimes director's cuts, there's not much difference, you know, like Michael Mann and Ridley Scott, and then there's other ones where it's like, oh, you can tell. And then, yeah, Steven just kind of walked that fine line, and he just kind of did it briefly, you know. It's like, you get a sense that he's pretty much satisfied with everything he makes, even if we aren't, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of director's cuts are just done, like to have a director's cut and sell it. I mean, I heard an interview with Ridley Scott where he says every movie, the theatrical is always the director's cut, and so when they come out with the director's cut, it's not specifically
James
his
Cameron's the
director's
same
cut, 'cause he was
way.
happy with the theatrical, but there are some director's cuts that make major differences. I do
some of them are easy. It's just deleted scenes put back.
I do a website called Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. I'll give you one to watch, and that's the director's cut of the Cotton Club.
Yes, such a different movie, right?
Yes, it is, and it's so much better. Same thing with The Abyss. Most people know The Abyss is this very mediocre movie, but you watch that director's cut, and it's one of the greatest movies ever made. It is fantastic.
Absolutely. The director's cut of Aliens is often used on...
Aliens is a good director's cut too, but then you'll watch the director's cut of something like Stargate, and you'll be like, I don't understand. Or Alien,
it's not much difference, yeah.
You know. But then you watch Once Upon a Time in America, and you get it.
Yeah, Leone's pretty apparent with his director's cuts. Ridley Scott varies. I know some people prefer the 4-hour cut of Kingdom of Heaven. I don't mind the original cut, but then there's Blade Runner. Is like, oh, I can tell which version I'm watching.
Yeah.
There's the Board Harrison Ford narration, so I'm watching the initial special edition.
Of course, there's so many cuts of that. So.
Yeah. We're gonna definitely do a fun director's cut series. We'll definitely do one for Apocalypse Now. We'll do one for a few others. But yeah, then there's other ones where you're like, that's all they added. Like American Gangsters, there's like a few extra scenes of crime scenes, and one extra monologue. I'm like.
But sometimes it can make all the difference. And I want to get back on Spielberg.
Oh yeah, with dialogue especially. There are some where I need that.
There's a movie called The Descent, and the director's cut basically adds one shot. It adds
Neil
a
Marshall
shot to the end of and it is a completely different movie because of it, because it ends in a totally just one shot, and it goes from a C minus movie to an A+ movie.
I probably need to watch that version then, because
I've seen it. Yeah.
I do recall that I think they advertise it with a new shocking ending.
I remember when I saw it in theaters and it ended, I'm like, really? That's how it's going to end? Really?
Did they forget a frame?
Then I saw the director's cut, and I'm like, oh my god, that's an amazing ending, because it's a
great ending. Oh man. Oh, director's cuts. So here we are going on to E.T. For some reason, I really only saw this like when I was preteen, teen. I didn't really want to see it when I was a kid. I just was freaked out by the notion of aliens, even though I'd seen Close Encounters. It was just kind of more of those like, this is a fun, easygoing crowd pleaser. It's kind of technically part of the Star Wars universe, if you think about it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Species appears in the Senate.
Shared universe.
Yeah, he could be a Jedi.
Yeah, that finger, baby.
Yeah.
Well, he can't fly, so.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe I can fly. Oh, wait, that didn't date well.
Yeah, both of those guys touch kids. You might want to steer back on that one.
Didn't Michael Jackson say he liked E.T.? Yeah.
Yeah, he goes right with it.
E.T.'s E.T. I mean, that for the longest time was the #1 movie of all time.
It was in '84, and what a big year! There's so many. The original Terminator, Star Trek 3, Enemy Mine, which I just can't believe flopped, but they just spent so much money on it they didn't want to market it, and it's like that's a great alien versus human culture movie too. But yeah, it's like '84's big year. We have Back to the Future. We have cult movies like Trancers. Plenty of other sleeper movies. It's just like, man, dynamite.
Yeah, great year.
No, E.T. for me, the first time I saw it, I just remembered it as kind of an alien movie because this was before, I was really getting into movies. I think when I was a kid, I saw maybe 5 or 6 movies in theaters. One of them was, and it's because I think we went. It was baseball's All-Star game was on, and my father wanted to watch it, so my mom's like, "We're going to the movies."
So she was like my mom, perfect.
And I thought it was an okay movie, and then I did, since it didn't have an impression on me when I was watching Spielberg stuff, I didn't really revisit it until the director's cut came out, and then I was kind of like, the director's cut, they had that really bad scene and all those really kind of bad effects of E.T., and so I was kind of like not even into it at all. And then a couple of years later, it's Thanksgiving, and a friend of mine comes over Thanksgiving and says, "Let's watch E.T." And I put in the Blu-ray, and so this is the first time that I'm really watching it. And when it was over, I'm like, "What the hell? That was amazing."
That was great. It is funny how you got to be in a certain mood with certain movies.
But see, I was watching it 2 nights ago because I rewatch all these movies for this. Otherwise,
likewise.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And so, because it's been a while, and so I'm watching it, and E.T.'s got like a lot of little tiny flaws and problems with it. Like the scene with the frogs, I just don't understand that. It doesn't work for me at all. But there's so much heart, there's so much soul, there's so much care. And the way that these characters work together and everything, by the end of the movie, it's like, wow, that was amazing. Right? And it's another one that uses its score really well. Not as well as Close Encounters, because I think the score stands out a little too much at times. Yeah. But
it gets a little cute.
And the practical effect of E.T. is just, if he feels very real. Yes. I mean, you're watching, even based on today's effect, I think practical effects like E.T. work better than CGI effects, and I think we need to go back to those.
A lot of bit part roles. C. Thomas Howell is the friend. Henry Thomas is now Mike Flanagan's favorite actor to use. And
how did he get these performances? These performances, especially from Drew Barrymore. And this was at a time when Spielberg. There was a time when Spielberg's dialogue felt more natural than scripted, and I feel like his dialogue now feels like most movies where you can tell that it was written. But early on in his career, when he was doing movies like Sugarland's Express and Jaws, and everything felt so improv, and some of the stuff that comes out of Drew Barrymore's mouth,
no one can make that up.
It's like, and she just said that and the camera was on. It had to be.
It didn't feel like acting.
Don't you love how Dee Wallace is around the same time she's becoming a scream queen, and here she is as the mom, and I know the dinner table argument. There's like a brief blooper that's often listed. It's like you can tell that she's laughing before they come.
But everything about E.T., just the characters feel real to the point where even E.T. himself feels real. And I think that's maybe why I don't like the little telepathy between the two, where they, where Elliot can feel E.T.'s feelings and all that. I don't think it's pulled off very well, and so. That part of it doesn't work for me, but overall, with the exception of that, everything just feels, and maybe it's because everything else feels so real and natural. Even when E.T. takes to flight, it just feels like it belongs. And it's when he takes to flight that first time, I love it because I was really noticing this when I was watching it a couple of nights ago, is he goes to this cliff, and Spielberg doesn't play it like, oh my God, he's going to go over the cliff. Oh my God, he's going to go over the cliff. He just goes over. It's just this very kind of sweet going over the cliff, and he's flying.
Just go for it.
The non-threat.
Can't have too many kids crying in the theater. Can't do that.
No, and then even with this movie, the technical stuff, like the cinematography, the shots, he does a lot of low angles from like a child's point of view. The man with the key. I like how we don't even see his face
even typical
until later.
The shoulder.
Very low
look
angle.
At the deleted scene where Harrison Ford plays the teacher, because he was married to the writer Melissa Matheson at the time. It's like, it's just like, just all this, just like, it's not voyeuristic. It's just more kind of like you're in the corner. Here's the fan's perspective, but not exactly. You know, just
but these shots that he was shooting, I think most of it shot from like a kid's level because he wanted us to relate to the kids as opposed to the adults. And you'll notice that the adults are like that first half of the movie before the adults really take a presence. You don't really see any adult faces outside of Dee Wallace's.
It's very Peanuts-like.
I do want somebody to explain to me why we kept going to a shot of Peter Coyote's keys, though.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that. We kept going to the keys, and there had to have been like.
I think you wanted to just ratchet up some tension, like what does a kid look at? But I see what you mean. The editing is a little hectic at times, where you're like, I'm not sure what's going on.
That could be it, because that would be at a kid's level.
Yeah. But like you say, you kind of got to be in that mode. You got to be kind of like a kid when you're actually watching it.
And it's sort of the threat, and it kind of reminded me of like Indy, when you see like the whip on the side holster, and you kind of see like the keys jingling.
Well, but then this is how good a director Spielberg is, that he can overcome stuff, and that is, first of all, he has the bravery. He's very brave to kill E.T.
I swear we're not biased. He does do edgy stuff that is mild. That is like anyone else would have done too much
in a kids movie.
Yeah, well, the thing is he's all gray. He looks like horrible and all that, and he kills him off. But then he brings him back to life, and that should not have worked. It feels like a cop out and coming back to life. But because we've gotten to know E.T. so well, we don't see it as a cop out. We're just like, oh my God, he's alive! Yay! We're feeling like, So we're happy.
Your kid can shut up now.
But because generally when something like that happens or somebody comes out of nowhere to save the day, I don't like it. But here it's like it happens and you're like, it works.
It makes sense for this kind of subgenre that he's playing with. Yeah.
You sort of buy into the magic, you know what I mean? Like the magic he set up. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So talking about like the man with the keys, because last night we watched this.
Oh, Tori, Amos, where'd you get the keys, girl? Sorry, couldn't resist. Anyway,
but, I forgive. My wife hadn't watched it in forever. She's probably a kid last time she saw the movie, and we brought up the guy with the keys. It's like, what's up with this guy? That's what she was asking me, and I was like, oh, well, he works, for the organization that's gonna go after E.T. and everything. Yeah. And she's like, it's such an interesting. Why are they going? Like, why are they showing that? Like the keys part of what do the keys mean? And it's like I kind of translate it to being like. I don't know. Well, like when you're a kid and you go to school and there's a janitor and the janitor has those big keys, and most of the time, at least for when I was growing up, kids were afraid of the janitor because they were in that dark room and those keys seemed so intimidating. So I kind of like related it to that.
Like, whoa,
or like a principal almost, or even in jail, like they have like the whole set of keys and all that.
Yeah, so I related to like. As a kid watching this movie, it's like you associate the keys as being like, oh, that's a bad person possibly, and you find out later on he's not even a bad guy. Like he actually does care.
Yeah, but he's trying to help him.
But you're thinking that through the whole movie. Like that for me, that's what I always related it to. It's like that kind of sense.
You got to figure that Spielberg he had a reason for doing that. And now I'm trying to wonder
if it's more cryptic than an ambiguous Nolan.
Yeah, but maybe it's just a separation of adults and kids because kids
maybe it means
they don't need keys for anything. They don't have the key to anything.
So are you saying you'd rather write a clickbait article? What does it mean?
Let's just put it out there to everybody.
I swear it means something.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of what it is that it doesn't necessarily need to mean something. It's the feeling behind it, like what you're saying, George. It's like as a kid, it's either the janitor that's doing it. You could even reference it to like a prison, like a jail with the keys, even a parent. Kids aren't really sort of like that. We're sort of locking in or enclosure.
Maybe it's I always took it as just building suspense, even before I even knew what the hell mystery and suspense meant.
We'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win Show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
We let things pile up in the DVR, we add them to our queues, we wait for the DVDs and Blu-rays. We time shift. The Time Shifters Podcast. Sci-fi, horror, fantasy, superheroes, comedy, action, film, television, maybe some not-so-current events. Find us on iTunes or at timeshifterspodcast.com.
Cool thing about Blind Knowledge is we are in multiple countries. We are worldwide all across the globe. We are in the US, we are in the UK, we are in Canada, Germany, India, Japan. We're in Australia, y'all. BlindKnowledge.com. Now back to the feature presentation.
Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, all things that we love, all manga that were originally published in the legendary magazine Weekly Shonen Jump.
But not every series can run for 300 chapters and have a hit anime. This is David.
This is Jordan.
We're the hosts of Shonen Flop. Each episode we look at manga that ran in Jump that didn't quite make it.
We discuss what it did wrong, what it did right, how the series could have turned itself around, and ultimately, was it a flop or not?
We're on all your favorite podcast apps, and you can find us at shonenflop.com.
Keep on flopping, floppers.
Yeah, but it does, and he relates it to children because that's how a kid relates it to as some kind of danger. So that's what he gives us, So
I'm bravo to him. I mean,
yeah, good.
Even anyone who says, "Oh, I hate it," "Oh, I find it overrated," you're still gonna watch this a few times because there's gonna be someone in your family who wants to see it, and you're just like, "Hey, it's intriguing."
The one thing that happens in the movie, and every time I watch it, because now since I rediscovered it that night, I've seen
born
it
again ET fan.
I've seen it a bunch of times, and the one thing that I can't get over is how quickly it ends. Because like they pull up on the spaceship, and then the mom pulls up her station wagon, and all of a sudden Drew Barrymore's right there at ET, and they're saying goodbyes. And I wish there was like a minute or so of something like the mother pulling her back, just something there that just feels
a little
really,
less
really
static.
quick.
Yeah,
but then then it recovers and saves itself because the goodbyes are so emotional. So it's like first I get taken out of it for a second, but then I'm brought right back in because once again Spielberg is a master of really kind of manipulation at times.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He knows how to play his cards. It's interesting to see even who he works with at the time. Again, I think he just needed that breather. So did he film Temple of Doom first, or was this first? I can't remember.
Looking at his list,
he had just produced Poltergeist 2 years earlier. And it's so dumb how everyone's like, he co-directed. I'm like, he did what a producer does, which is give notes.
Right. It went Raiders of the Lost Ark, then E.T.
Okay, yeah. So he was angry, and I guess because he let all that anger out post-divorce, I think he was ready to just settle down. He's like, okay, let's do something fun that I don't even have to think about. I'm a cheerful guy.
E.T. was before Temple of Doom.
Okay, so
Raiders.
So that's why he was just lovey-dovey-dovey, and then he's like, "How about I make a Giallo type Indiana Jones prequel?"
E.T. is so obviously him dealing with just divorce because of his parents' divorce.
Yeah.
So, and then of course after that came Twilight Zone, which is in itself its own animal because
the movie.
because he so obviously wasn't into making that after the.
I think he was just saddened by all the tragedy that on there, and he's like, "I'm just going to remake one of the popular ones that had Bill Shatner with the Gremlin."
I heard or read somewhere something along the lines. He just after that, maybe it was on the Shudder show, I don't know, but somewhere that he just didn't want to continue with making the Twilight Zone after the big accident that happened on set.
Yeah,
so he really
was a total mood killer.
Yeah. He wasn't really into making it, and that's why it doesn't necessarily feel as magical as they probably could have. And then after Twilight Zone, the movie came Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which we just talked about his best movie of all time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Temple of Doom to me is one of his worst. So,
ouch.
And I know
That's okay. I didn't like it.
I know I'm in the minority there, but even Spielberg.
It was the least popular. I mean, I'm now seeing people shit on Last Crusade. I'm like, no. Last Crusade, that is a winning buddy duo. That is not a terrible Lethal Weapon knockoff. That is a good.
He got a great father-son dynamic that he crushed it with that relationship.
People shit on the humor. I'm like, the humor is the best part.
Yeah.
Well, the problem
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that's a different story.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the worst.
That one I don't.
The problem with The Last Crusade, and I like The Last Crusade, is
I love it.
It's the ending, you know, with the penitent man and all. It feels like he gets through all that so easily, and it really needed to be something like the opening of Raiders. And so at least that's what it is for me. And not only that, I don't think Spielberg and Lucas ever really realized what made Raiders of the Lost Ark so great, because
that I will agree with, because there were so many cooks in the kitchen.
They got away from it after.
Well, Last Crusade is a fun movie, and I'm going to go out there, and you guys are going to hate me, but I think Crystal Skull is just as good as Last Crusade. But they're just popcorn movies, and Raiders was not a popcorn movie. It was a popcorn movie at a different.
Raiders, I do remember seeing as a kid, and I was like, man, it's pretty intense.
That truck chase is probably
someone got fucking run over.
It's probably the most intense scene ever made. I just reviewed a movie called Sorcerer, which has got this bridge scene, which is the second most intense scene ever made, and I had to make that point in my movie that it's second to the truck chase in Raiders, because that is just one of the all-time great, scenes of its kind.
I'm with you. It's
nothing ever duplicated it.
If there's anything he did with Indy, I mean, that was just where he's like kind of his own style of adventure. I mean, truth be told, Lucas would always act like it was his baby. And I was like, well, Lucas, I mean, you're setting up the shots and being an assistant director and setting up the production, being the money man. But it really is kind of more Steven's baby.
I am curious, Mark. I would want to know your thoughts behind Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because I see the monkey on the tweet. When he's swinging.
Here's the thing. Here's my thoughts on Crystal Skull, if you want. I know we have
go for it, my dude.
We gotta eventually get to War of the Worlds.
It's allowed. It does involve aliens.
But the thing is with Crystal Skull, with the exception of the monkey scene and the bugs, because really, and when they're driving along that cliff, and it's so obviously digital. And I gotta assume that Lucas was behind all that, because Spielberg.
Oh yeah, that's him doing his notes and saying, "What do you want to do, George?"
CGI really began because of Jurassic Park, but there's still a lot of practical stuff in that movie.
Yeah.
Balance it, and but I think that with the exception of that, it can be pretty fun at times if you just go in and
for the stunts.
I believe that there's certain movies where you turn your brain off and you just have a good time. You eat some popcorn, you just have a good time. And
like Michael Bay films.
But it did kind of have
some of Michael Bay.
Some of
it has some Michael Bay moments, but then it has kind of some Independence Day moments where you're like,
In Transformers is the perfect example, because the first half of that, even if you turn your brain off, you can see how stupid it is. But the second half of it, you turn your brain off, and it's like a PG-rated Verhoeven film.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I first saw Transformers, and I saw Spielberg and all those other guys were involved with it, I was like, it almost did feel like Michael Bay was kind of just taking his notes. Oh, have the kids connect with the car. And he's like, oh, you mean like Gremlins and E.T.? Sure, I'll do that. I'll give you that, Steven. Now back off. And then the rest is his usual violent Bruckheimer movie.
Yes.
But, I mean, there's enough in Crystal Skull. Like, first of all, I was really happy that he didn't pass the torch. I mean, he takes the hat back. And I thought Shia LaBeouf was okay. I liked seeing the two, him
Before
and, what's her name? Karen Allen Harrison Ford and Karen Allen back together again, even if that scene doesn't work at all when they first see each other, and the whole thing with the snake, and there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work, but then there's just a lot of stuff where it's like,
it does have some good shots.
The library. Just zonk your brain out.
That fridge scene is though comedy gold.
And I felt the same way. I actually felt the same way about The Last Crusade, because I felt like he was finding his clues too easily in The Last Crusade. Like X marks the spot, and there it is.
I think they just said, we just want to say screw you to James Bond, because we want to. I think they wanted to out Bond, and they were so distracted working with Connery, because who wouldn't it be? And
the reason the reason I don't like Temple of Doom is because it's not an Indiana Jones movie. You know, I wanted
it's a horror movie. Don't get me wrong.
And it's like the stuff on this table with all the food and that how gross that was. It's like, what is all that about? And then you go underneath the ground. It's like, I want to see this archaeologist kind of going and exploring a dig and stuff like that. And it wasn't like that. And it just felt, I kind of felt ripped off.
The first part is like a 30s gangster picture. You know.
He even dressed him in the James Bond outfit, the signature white suit. You know?
I don't mind the opening scene of the movie.
No,
And then I think Short Round.
Don't get me wrong, Kid
hating
Capshaw
on
is
this,
very
he just
annoying.
feels-
I just love him in Short Round's rapport and the death traps.
But he feels like an add-on character to appeal to an audience as opposed to somebody who belongs in the movie.
Well, no, that's half true because he was a Goonie after all. So I think, Steven was just like, go loose, man.
Goonies, I love.
Yeah, Goonies is amazing. I love
No, Goonies is fun. I'm just, I'm easygoing.
Sorry, I'm taking you off track again.
Oh yeah,
it's fine.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. Yeah. So this was one of the. So I'll let you guys do your first impressions because everyone varies on this one. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of bust her up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, War of the Worlds, I love the 1950 style look and everything that he brought with it, that retro look.
Yeah, Daniel.
I remember when I first saw War of the Worlds, I thought it was okay. It was good. I rewatched it again.
It's not a Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise is running,
it's still
but it's
good.
not.
But it's not Mission Impossible. It's still good, but it's not. It's nowhere near. I wouldn't even say his top. In my opinion, at least, I wouldn't even put it in the top 15 of my favorite Spielberg movies. So it's not a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just,
I know people who either like it or really, really hate it. It really does depend on the crowd. It was okay. So it was one of those where I just slowly soaked it up. It was kind of, I saw that the same year as King Kong, and each time I appreciated them on repeat viewings. I appreciated that was where I was even, had more fun even just thinking about movies after the fact. And usually I only did that if it was like a mystery or just a funny movie with some insight, a satire. And this was one, it's like, okay, interesting. The train on fire, that was a cool way to show an off-screen massacre versus just spend more time. I think everyone gets, much like Crystal Skull, gets distracted by all the zap effects. Oh, why did they disappear? But the clothes are still there. It made sense to me, but others were like, what the fuck? This movie sucks.
It was the ending. I think it was the ending that bothered me a little more. Where
I see a lot of people who hate the ending. Why is that house still standing?
Yeah,
the mom should technically be dead. We're never hear about her until the end.
All that. It just seemed too convenient. That's where I'm like, okay, that's Spielberg, more of the modern Spielberg that we've kind of had complaints about. It just seemed too perfect. Everything was too perfect. How does she escape? How did the sun just pop out of nowhere and he's perfectly fine?
I just mainly remember all the military stuff. The best part is when they're in the basement. You got Psycho Tim Robbins. You're like, see, the only thing worse than the alien are the humans themselves, who again, are going to be the douchebags who throw everyone under the sidewalk. I almost
want to see more of that. I want to see more.
Wasn't there someone who jumps on like one of the boats and is like that gets blown up, and they're like me first? So it just shows all the spoiled guys are eating each other, just
and the cars
each other,
shooting each other,
and they're the first to die. So hey, there you go. That works for me. But I can't believe that whole rotation scene with the car that took 6 cameras to digitally mesh it together.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie right there.
6 cameras. You're welcome,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So before I tell you what I thought of the movie, the second time I saw it, it was a special screening and Dennis Muren was there to talk about the special effects and everything. Ooh. And they actually had he's
the big head of ILM for those who don't know.
He's the big special effects guy and one of the best in the business. Park. And he was there to talk about it, and he talked about how they literally didn't have as much time as they needed to do the special effects. And because I think they did the movie in like a year or something like that. And
he was doing Munich. He's producing 2 other shows for HBO. And
you got to remember at a certain time, it took it used to take 2-3 years to make a movie because not everything was done inside the computer.
And Steven's doing like 2 movies a year. He's like, can't wait.
And so they had so little time to make this movie that he actually. What he said was he found it worked for the better because you can get caught on designing the aliens and the alien spaceships and going back to the drawing board over and over again, and this forced them to just settle on one of the earlier kind of things.
Because they're just like the original, any other iteration of War of the Worlds is like it's giant walkers that zap people and
so that was kind of cool. So I thought I'd bring that up, but I love War of the Worlds. I think it's a fantastic movie, and I actually understand why everybody has a problem with the ending, because the only problem I have with the ending is the fact that the son just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
And when they get together, it's like they worked out their problems, and it's kind of like, well, how'd you work out your problems? You guys weren't really speaking when he took off.
Yeah.
And he literally ran away from you.
Yeah, and some of the best
you bastard. No.
Some of the best scenes in the movie were the conflicts that they had. So I didn't like.
It's a very realistic arguing. That is definitely something I hear in every review. The most realistic, single parent, divorced parent arguing.
And even their hats, like even them wearing a Boston Red Sox hat and a Yankees hat, tells
we
you
know
immediately
everything about how different
that's
they are.
it.
Yeah.
Just based off of visual.
Yes.
Just based off of visual. Yeah.
So, and then this was the same thing with the original War of the Worlds and the book. I don't like the idea of the aliens dying because of the virus, because nobody defeats the aliens. And so it's very anticlimactic, and that happens here. Although I like when they come into Boston and how Spielberg handles it all. So the ending doesn't ruin it for me. But that movie, from the minute those aliens make their first appearance to that point where they reach Boston, is so much fun in every way, shape, or form. Not only does it have its action scenes where it looks like just
it gives life to the city. Yeah,
it's got that amazing scene where they take the mob and the car getting taken away from them and the guy getting shot off. It's just all this amazing stuff. The stuff on the ferry. Where they stop for a second as
showing how animalistic everyone is.
But then there's that shot
Legend where every or Book of Eli, where every other post-apocalyptic movie was kind of trying to make it be like that, But
this one had some real kind of emotion in there too, because then you got the scene where the son goes up to help, and that's when Tom Cruise is kind of like looking at him, like realizing that his son is a good kid, and maybe the other father, the other guy, the guy who married his mom,
Tim, I think
the ex-wife, I guess, was probably responsible for that. And so it just had a lot of stuff like that in it. The Tim Robbins stuff was really interesting. When the tentacle
Morgan Freeman's narration doesn't feel too Morgan Freemanish.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually like the narration. I'm not a big fan of narration. But the tentacle coming into the basement. I mean, if you really want to
and then they're having to take an axe
using the mirror. The mirror was a cool one.
Yeah.
This is the kind of movie.
That's a shining moment. Yeah.
This is the kind of movie where, once again, you just take off, you take out your brain and you just vegetate and you just let it absorb you. Let it be what it wants to be. Otherwise, you're going to start asking questions like when Tim Robbins waves them in, they're the only two people that go into the house. There were all these people.
Yeah.
You start asking questions like that.
Yeah.
But if you recognize the kind of movie that this movie wants to be, which is what I tell people with all movies, forget trailers or anything. Just let the movie introduce itself to you.
Stop acting like that's the movie
that it wants to be. And if you let this movie be the movie it wants to be, it's a lot of fun. And Spielberg does a really good job with it. He doesn't fall into all the traps that a lot of other filmmakers would. He gives us one shot while they're in the car, as opposed to Michael Bay would have given you 500 shots. Adds excitement to it. The way that the way we get the plane crash is pretty incredible.
Plane crash is well done. Yeah.
And I think in somebody else's hands, I'm trying to think who else could have done as good a job as Spielberg, but I mean,
they would have made us feel too isolated. I feel anyone else who would have gotten this, they would have just been like, and then this happens, and then this happens.
We got to show the plane crash,
or we got to show too much of the aliens to where there's no suspense at all, and it's just again Independence Day 2.
Yeah.
And this movie really highlighted the classic Spielberg, where you have the constant motion with the action that's happening, and it's the continuous shot. He did a great job with this. So the action, I agree with you, Mark. It kept your attention, throughout the movie. So I like
1,000%. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is where he just started returning to just grim stuff again,
Yeah.
Yeah, because after that he gave us Munich, which to me was a snore fest. I'm looking at his list right here: Adventure of Tintin, which would have been exciting if it had been live action.
Oh, but Mark, don't you know? Don't you remember? Don't fuck with the Jews. That immortal line by Daniel Craig in the
No. I don't know. A lot of people really like Munich, but I was so bored by it for some reason.
That's basically his return to doing a spy movie. He never got to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I in a lot of ways I like his more sci-fi. It's the stuff that has the more blockbuster feel. I have more enjoyment with. I mean, yeah, you recognize the greatness and the importance of something like Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, when you're done watching Schindler's List, you don't feel like going in and watching it.
The rewatchability of those is what gets kind of,
I can do Private Ryan, but Schindler, you should watch that just once, maybe at an anniversary screening, but that's it. Schindler's List, Amistad, and all those kinds of movies, they're really hard to watch, but they're important. There's a difference between going to the movies for something that you're going to enjoy and something that's just important. It really helps get what happened out to the masses, and that's what we like.
It's more like a spectacle. I mean, like there's those spectacle films, and there's
he does it kind of with War Horse, where he kind of tries to blend the grit of those, and then the horse's equivalent, basically E.T. Going around with Elliot and Soldier.
Yeah, but I do notice that when he does do one genre, the movies all are very different. Like E.T. is very much a family film. Close Encounters is more for adults, maybe, from 12 or 13 on up, because it's more serious. And then War of the Worlds is just your popcorn movie. Because E.T. and Close Encounters really aren't popcorn movies. There's a lot there to absorb. Whereas War of the Worlds,
these themes are kind of minuscule. His war shocks in with
he's not just revisiting and giving you the same thing over and over again.
Not even the same kind of emotion, even. Jorge, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Any closing thoughts do you have on this one? Why it varies by crowd?
I know. So I've owned this film since it came out because I'm a Tom Cruise fan and a Spielberg fan. So it's
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, don't even think about it. I'm gonna buy this. It's gonna be on my collection. But as rewatching again this morning, before coming on to here.
Nice. I love you guys' research. You guys are excellent.
You're telling me I got to watch movies before going to a podcast? Okay.
And Spielberg.
Too much work.
Yes.
Oh, no.
If you remember, when initially to get me on this show, you had asked me to do the war movies with you. And I said, but you're going to have to give me a month because those are all like 3.5 hours long. You want to rewatch them all.
Exhausting.
Yeah, I don't
luckily, these films are less than 2 hours.
I'm just always recording, but
we did the Peter Weir episode. I didn't rewatch all his movies, but
they're all 5 hours.
Almost all of them.
They're great movies, but choose wisely. It's like, and after we recorded that, you'll be happy to know I bought the special edition DVD box set of Master and Commander when we come done.
Oh, cool! Because
the Blu-ray didn't import those over. I'm like, I need those special features. But
I'll say,
sorry, Jorge, I didn't mean to.
It's cool. It's cool.
It's interesting. So many people violently hate this one, or they're like, it's fun.
I don't hate this. I don't hate this movie, honestly, because for me, like we're talking about how great Spielberg is, and I think this is one of those movies that showcases how masterful he is at his craft. A lot of things that I'll complain about with movies nowadays is the show don't tell kind of thing.
Yeah.
Within the first 10 minutes, I want to say, we see who Tom Cruise is as a dad, as a man. It's like he's reckless. He works at his job and he barely cares about that. He gets home late. You see his ex-wife, and we're seeing the relationship he has with her and the kids. All within those first 10 minutes. Boom. I know these people. I know where they're going. I totally get it. And that allows him to next hour or so to give us just impact action, where other filmmakers don't get that. They don't understand how to build those characters just enough so we can follow them on their journey. And even within all that action, we're still getting it. We're still understanding his connection with his son, with his daughter, and how he doesn't know them, and how he's kind of discovering them through this.
Yeah,
turmoil.
We get an idea that he's been like working at like factories or some shit like that.
Yeah, he works like at the docks.
Doesn't have time.
That's it.
Yeah, he does. He's a blue collar guy. He doesn't have time to socialize, and each thing he wants to do, he's like, I just want to eat and watch football.
He still feels like a teenager.
Yeah, exactly. His kids are more adult than he is.
Yeah, and see, that's what I've always applauded about Steven. I get all this body language that I don't, I love plenty of Scorsese, but there's plenty of other Scorsese where it's like, okay, thank you, Mr. Obvious. That, I didn't get that. And then there's others just like, yeah, well, I've seen it done better in like 500 movies. There's so many other people where it's just like, they need to stick to what they do best. Like, I love Scorsese for grit. I don't necessarily like him for all the character development, but there are some good characters that he's left. And then there's other ones where it's like, you know, like Nolan is not good at writing women. He just gives them a nothing role, like help, John, you know. And Spielberg, he pretty much just he loosens everyone up. And
right. Well, Jorge earlier mentioned performance, and we get great performances here. Dakota Fanning, how old is she? And once again,
this made me become a fan because
she steals the show.
Everything she had been in prior to this, it was either like rated R, like Man on Fire and Trapped, and then she was doing a few other kids movies and you know, guest spots. And yeah, this to me, I was like, okay, now you're a Spielberg kid. And same thing with Justin Chatwin on Mark's earlier point, how, you know, he kind of was hot for a minute, but like for that 1 second, he was a Spielberg kid. He gives a great performance, and then, you know, he before he made a comeback on TV shows like
Shameless.
Shameless and Another Life for Netflix. He was doing stuff like Dragon Ball Evolution, and he's like, man, you know, but he's a Spielberg kid, you know, we shouldn't be so hard on him. And so it is wild how, like you say, they all flirted with the Spielberg house. It's where you go if you don't go to the Disney house.
And Cruise is really good here too. I mean,
he doesn't play Tom Cruise.
No, I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. That's why I brought him up.
I like him. I just don't like him as a person.
I guess well, I don't know him as a person. I only know what I read, and I tend to not believe a lot of what I read.
I just didn't like how he converts science. But this is where that movie kind of, I think it did decent box office, but I knew so many. He's like, this was when he jumped on Oprah's couch, and so many people were like, I don't really want to see his movies anymore. You know?
Yeah, but the thing is he's really good here. Cruise does not get the recognition he really deserves as an actor.
100%. Totally agree.
100%. Oh yeah, he's amazing in Tropic Thunder.
Well, Tropic Thunder is probably his best performance, but if you look at if you go back in his career and you look at Rain Man and you look at Color of Money, you look at All the Right Moves, which is one of, if you were to ask me my favorite Tom Cruise movies, that would be in my top 5 above some of the other ones. It is so under.
Yeah, him and Craig T. Nelson, their work together is really good in that.
I'll do you one better. Minority Report.
They're absolutely fantastic.
I love Minority Report.
He's great in Minority Report. He's
a good man. I don't know if he holds his own, but he's pretty good in that, along with Jimmy.
It's kind of hard because of his surrounding cast. You know what I mean?
I just saw a Howard Stern interview with Rob Reiner and how he said because Nicholson acted like he does on screen in every line reading, that was where everyone was like, oh, we got to get our shit together. We can't just be, you know, beautiful faces. We got to actually be military lawyers, you know, in the room with Jack.
Man, the first time I saw the movie, I didn't like it, but I've revisited it, and I got appreciation for that movie. I think the only one that he gives a bad performance that I could think of, now I haven't seen Endless Love, but Losing It, he's not so good in.
He's just beginning. He doesn't really do much in The Outsiders.
He did decent in Jerry Maguire. He did good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
I think he's a good actor. It's just I don't like the sketchy Scientology behind the scenes shit.
Yeah, I mean, and you do have to kind of question that, but I mean, you know, I've heard, I'm in Hollywood. I know people who've worked with him, and so I've heard I've heard one set of stories, and then I've heard another set of stories. You know, I mean,
he's professional on set.
It's hard to really know what's what.
Yeah, no, I've heard he's always professional on set. It's just one of those just off camera. He likes to
the Scientology
convert you and make you be one of his brides, but. American Made was the one where he's like the real life CIA guy who like extorted a bunch of drug dealers or some shit like that.
Yeah. I think that was it.
That was like the most anti-Tom Cruise. Well,
I like Eyes Wide Shut, man. Kubrick.
He's good in everything. Plus, if you were to judge, I just said this on something else. If you were to judge actors and people in the business, if you were to judge whether you saw their movies based on what you know of them in their personal life. I say what you know of them is because that's all you can know is what you've heard. You would never go to any movie.
You'd go to like maybe right, maybe free movies and that's it. Yeah,
you go to all the Spielberg stuff, you go to all the Muppet stuff, and there you go.
Maybe not even Star Wars. Yeah, those guys.
You wouldn't see anything by Peckinpah. You wouldn't see anything by Stone. You know.
Yeah. Spike Lee, Bill Controls, it'd be like, I'm not sure I'm going.
I try to,
Tarantino would be an instant no.
Yeah.
Actually, Tarantino, I don't know much about him, but when I hear him,
I know he bit Fergie on the set of Grindhouse. All I'll say is, if I'm a director, I'm not going to encourage my actors to choke each other out. Just saying.
Yeah, I know.
Then at the same
I didn't
time,
hear that.
That's a
I
good
don't think
start.
I've heard that story.
that was on Inglourious Basterds. Diane Kruger was like getting choked out by whoever's playing the Nazi in that scene,
Yeah.
and she actually passed
It was
out.
his
I'm like,
hands. It was his hands.
Oh, it was
He ended
his.
up-
Oh,
yeah,
I
because
hate
he
him
tried
even more
using
now.
Christoph Waltz, and Christoph Waltz wasn't doing it hard enough, so he ended up doing it himself. So his hands
Jesus.
are the ones in the movie.
If it wasn't the Weinsteins, anyone else would have been shut down by SAG.
There you go.
You can't do it in this year's climate. Yeah.
Thanks, Harvey? Question mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still say that as a Tarantino fan of his earlier stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting too. How, again, but out of all the set of Spielberg's trilogies, quadrilogies that we were greenlighting, it seemed kind of interesting how we were just like, this got the most likes. Or about three others wanted to do this recording that couldn't make it tonight. And I was like, yeah, this is like, it's the most uncanny of his themed similar movies.
Yeah.
At least two of these movies, if you were to ask people their top five, E.T. and Close Encounters would almost definitely be on there. War of the Worlds will make it onto some people's, but you get like Schindler's List, Jaws, E.T., Close Encounters.
I'll break the mold. Munich's in my top five. Munich's in my top five.
I like Munich. I thought Munich
I
was
put
really
Jurassic
good.
Park in his top five. That's one of my favorites.
Jurassic Park, I think,
I love
works because
Jurassic
it's
Park.
also like, even though it's a straight face, it's like his take on Jaws with meets Aliens.
Jurassic Park's a great movie. I have a problem with the Tyrannosaurus Rex at the end, but up until then, it's such a great movie because nobody to this day has done better with CGI than Jurassic Park.
Oh
Because
yeah,
he was
that
just
and
starting
T2,
out.
or this or the end of it. Yeah,
He mixed practicals with CGI so perfectly that to this day, when somebody tells me the effects don't hold up, I just don't listen to them anymore.
No.
'Cause they still
All
hold
these
up.
films, they all hold up. Like just watching these three films, nothing lost a beat, honestly. Even with War of the Worlds, like it's most of it's CG, and it's still done really well.
Done
The
very
fact that it's
well.
2005, it's kind of hard to believe.
I lost respect for so many pals who were just like, "Oh, Jurassic World looks more convincing." I'm like, "We're gonna strong disagree on that." Then they fall, and then they will watch Jurassic Park, but they only like it for the humor that the scientists have by B.D. Wong and Sam Jackson. And I'm like, "There's so much more. There's so many other dry lines." I like how Sam Neill, he was just fresh off Dead Calm and some period pieces, and he's practically Indiana Jones here, but you love him in his own right as Dr. Grant. And
You wanna-
it's a good party movie in addition to being an explosive sci-fi horror adventure movie. You're like, whoa.
Well, you want to know how you watch Jurassic World and you'll like it 10 times better? I like Dominion. I think that one, or not Dominion, though, was the second one. What was the second one? Fallen Kingdom?
Fallen Kingdom.
I like that one a lot, but that one had a really good director behind it. And I don't mind Jurassic World or Dominion. I want to see the director's cut of Dominion because I hear it is much
There's
better.
a director's cut of Dominion?
Yeah, they put it on Peacock. It's actually, they calling it the extended cut. But I've been told by people who've seen it that actually it fills in a lot of the gaps. But the first one, I thought when I saw it the first time, I'm like, okay, this is okay. It was worth watching. But then I went and saw it a second time. I don't remember why. And I realized the characters are incredibly flat in Jurassic World.
That's why
you
I
really
hated it
grow to
more
hate
than
them.
Crystal Skull.
So go into Jurassic World next time you watch it, rooting for the dinosaurs.
I can't because I don't
If you
believe
go
that
in
they're
rooting
actually
for the
there.
dinosaurs, you'll have a good time as they're picking off these really horrible
If
characters.
I just can't relate to anybody.
I'll say, in all fairness, I watch every Jurassic movie that way. I am always rooting for the dinosaurs.
Oh, interesting. So you watch it from a guy.
There's
I
the
mean, don't get me
savage.
wrong.
Yeah, I
know
want the T-Rex to catch them.
Oh, I want
mean,
them to win. Yeah.
I know Steven, you get the Godzilla sense when he does Lost World, and I know he doesn't think too fondly of that one, but I can do the first two sequels, even though I think that they take up so much time with arguing and.
I can do the first two sequels as well. I don't like the big
yeah.
acrobatic scene in the second one. And
Oh
when they
yeah,
do-
where Goldblum's adopted daughter knows kung fu.
yeah, and then I also don't really
I
necessarily.
know kung fu.
I don't necessarily like it when they get to the mainland either, but there's some smart stuff in it that actually kind of works.
Yeah.
I even kind of like the third one. I like Joe Johnston as a director. I just wish it didn't end so fast. This is how fast that ended. I got invited to a special screening, so
and
I
Don
go.
Davis did a
and
hell of a job recapturing Williams' score. It's freaky, but like you say, it just. I think he they made the sequels like way too quickly. Like that. Those
the
are
talking
what,
Velociraptor. Ugh,
The third one,
wait, which one was that?
That was part 3. That was
three.
Jurassic Park 3.
Oh,
It's a
where they're
dream where he's on
calling
a
a
plane.
Oh,
Alan.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh my god.
It's
but
like Twilight
literally,
Zone.
it ends before the ending is like it's over. It's just all of a sudden it's over.
And it's a shame too, because when it opens, you just like you see the parachute and no one's there. He's like, see, that's how you open up a movie, and you're just like, what?
Which is a shame because I wonder how much like because Joe Johnston is a really great director.
Oh yeah,
and
Fresh
so
off the
it kind of makes
Rocketeer.
you wonder was somebody else pulling the strings because I feel like he would have made a better movie than that.
Oh, that's kind of what I felt with World because I saw people saying I don't like Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm like, I've seen him be good in other stuff.
Yeah,
these
they're good in
characters,
other
there's
stuff.
nothing to them. And wasn't that dumb when Josh Whedon got on like social media and was like complaining about it, and then we find out years later he's been interrogating females on his movie sets? It's like, dude, you're such an attention whore.
I feel like if you're going to get to direct a Jurassic Park movie, a Star Wars movie, a Star Trek movie, or anything like that, you should have earned it. Rather than having that one independent movie that you did that did really well, and so let's give it to this guy.
Well, that's what the issue I had is the dude had come from an indie movies. He'd done all these comedies, and then he has the guys who did the serious new Planet of the Apes movies, and then he like just would rewrite them on the day of. It's like, I want to make this more campy because who takes a movie about dinosaurs seriously? I'm like, well, then that's not the right guy for the job.
I think that's why. I think that's why the second one, why I like Falling Kingdom, whatever the second one was, because that director had come from a movie called The Orphanage, and then he had done The Impossible about the tsunami.
Amazing movie.
From there, he made he made just this incredible movie.
He just worked on the Rings of Power. Yeah.
Well, he had, but before the Jurassic Park, he had done what's it called, A Monster Calls,
yeah,
yeah. So he had really earned
a dark fairy tale movie.
He really earned his spot with these 3 great movies. So now they give him a Jurassic World movie, and there were some kind of things in it, like the building of the bigger dinosaur and all that, but it had style and it was really well done.
Way better than those other 2, because like I saw the last one on a plane, like the 6th one. And I was just like, so they're just reusing shots from Temple of Doom.
I had so many issues with that the last one.
This is I'm giving this a 0.
The last one to me was
no
okay. I want to, like I said, I want to see the extended edition because everybody I know has seen the extended edition says it's better. But
too forgiving, my
what was in theaters was a little.
I don't think this is a Heaven's Gate scenario or Johnny Mnemonic where there was a different cut released in theaters.
I'm just so sad because they had the original cast, and I'm like, I just had higher.
That was my
even
first
though the expectation,
because if
but
there's
I had
nothing
lower
about
expectation.
the plot, then and there's just the actors returning, then that's the warning sign each
That's
time when
the
they
red
do
flag,
these
and I
reboots.
knew it.
I'm
I knew it, but I still just hoped.
A sucker born every time.
They got you. They got
They got me again. They got me again.
They need to do Gremlins versus Jurassic Park.
When they bring in the original cast, that's when you should worry because that means they don't have anything, so they're trying to appeal.
Yes,
Yes, the member
Dern
berries.
just did the second Oscar-nominated movie that no one saw. Goldblum wants to do something stupid that he can read off a teleprompter, and Neil, I mean, he's working, but you don't remember.
But Sam Neill, when he's good, and when Laura Dern, she's good. So when you find out actors like that are coming back, you're kind of like, oh, maybe there's something.
Surely they saw something. No,
No.
Maybe they saw a
They saw cha-ching. They saw
Ching. 5 mansions later.
Yeah. I like Sam
Bring
Neill.
the Tyrannosaurus Rex back, he just sees the money or some more food.
So now we know Godzilla versus Jurassic Park. Make it happen.
Yeah, well,
Don't do that. I'm just kidding. Bad ideas. Just throwing them out there before someone
put it out there, and the studios are going to see money. They're going to say Godzilla makes money.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what's kind of the funny thing.
He
'cause
fought
Gareth
King Kong
Edwards-
already.
right? Because Gareth Edwards,
aren't
you look
they
at
doing
his
a
first
sequel to
Jurassic.
that?
Second.
I think they're making a sequel to that, aren't they?
They are.
I think they are.
They're working
But
on it right now.
Isn't it wild how Gareth Edwards was kind of channeling Jurassic Park when he did his Godzilla? Just like, yeah. So who's the Jeff Goldblum here? Okay, that guy is the Sam Neill here.
Unfortunately,
everybody just can't help themselves.
When that Godzilla came out, my reaction was, "Can you give me some more Godzilla in my Godzilla?"
I know.
I
Seriously.
mean, I know he approached it like the black and white 50s original, so I was ready for that. But I understand.
Only if haven't seen the original and you've seen the Raymond Burr one, maybe. Because if you haven't seen the original Gojira before they put Raymond Burr into it, it not only holds up, it's a scary movie.
It worked for me because I never saw the Raymond Burr version.
Check out the original.
I don't see tampered American versions of movies unless it's a funny dub.
Yeah,
or if it's a version that's not bad, like Jackie Chan dubbed,
But if they get the right filmmakers behind it and they just don't throw somebody in there, then I liked Kong Skull Island and
Oh yeah, that was a fun movie.
Yeah.
And when you look at like Spielberg when he did E.T., and Close Encounters, he had already proven himself on Duel, which was very,
which went theatrical overseas. It was so good.
He had done stuff that would allow for that to happen, and
he never let his limitations get to him. He knew it could break any minute, and I love how he's like, he and Scorsese are like one of the few studios he's one of the few people who studios will not mess with.
Right. Well, and he had
because the studios would be discredited if they mess with him.
Yeah.
Although when he was doing Schindler's List, he had I believe he had to fight to do it in black and white. The studios didn't want to do it in black and white.
Yeah, and
always against it.
and he's always people might not remember this, but when Private Ryan first aired, premiered on ABC, it was completely uncut. The same thing with Schindler's, it was left uncut on NBC for years later. But and just after 10, put your kids to bed.
Sometimes they'll do that with important movies, like Threads was shown uncut.
Oh wow.
And that's strange because that was actually made for television, but it's one of the most terrifying.
They just didn't know if it would be,
and they showed it on
ABC.
They showed it on PBS.
They always film alternate versions of back when they did that. Now they don't, but it was.
You would figure that after Jaws, as much as in a way, he lucked out with Jaws because with all the problems that were on that movie shouldn't have been one of the greatest movies of all time.
He just kept his cool.
It was the first blockbuster, so it made so much money that nobody was going to say no to him. But you'd be surprised. What's that?
Even Alien itself was practically Jaws in space.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro's been trying to make this H.P. Lovecraft movie for the longest time. And Tom Cruise attached to, and they still couldn't get financing for it.
Yeah.
And
at least he ended up doing a Cabinet of Curiosities, so we got a little bit of that.
Right. Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing his Pinocchio.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it looks good from what I've seen of it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What would you say is the current Spielberg of this day? Like, does similar stuff?
What young buck is Spielberg?
I feel like Denis Villeneuve is his own kind of theory. He loves cinema. He'll do his Ridley Scott take. He'll do his Ware take. He'll do his Spielberg take.
I know J.J. Abrams tried, but
I couldn't get into Super 8.
Yeah, Super 8 was not.
And Spielberg produced it. I'm like, so it's Goonies, E.T., and no originality.
It's the alien designs. They look so similar in all of his movies.
And why call Star Trek when it's just Star Wars with Captain Kirk?
Lens flare.
Yeah.
Flare. No more lens flare.
In the second one, they had to try and duplicate Khan.
Yeah, Mirror Universe of Khan.
The greatest villain of all time, and you're going to recast him. You shouldn't be doing that. And
speaking of Khan, Michael Khan, didn't he pass away? Spielberg's longtime editor? Or is he still around?
So he's got co-editing credit on the new one.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think he's getting ready to retire because he's got this girl now who's been co-editing with him.
Oh, so is Williams. He's like 90, so he only did this because he was close to Steven's dad.
I think he said either the Fabelmans or it might be the new Indiana Jones movie. One of those two is going to be.
Oh, yeah. You got to have Williams for Indy. And I will applaud him for bringing Mangold on. I think that was actually pretty well earned. I know everyone varies on him. They either like or don't like his various biographies and mystery movies and adventure films. But I was like, after Ford versus Ferrari, it's like, see, I can understand this. It's like he's doing all these giant adventure movies with these ragged heroes that can still limp and still throw a few punches.
I can't imagine another director that would have gotten me excited being a different director. And to me, it was all about.
I was at first. I was like, I don't know who anyone else is going to focus on the explosions and not Indy.
It's just he took Logan.
See what happened with Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
Logan was a phenomenal film.
Yeah,
and barely a line of dialogue.
But I mean, it's what he did with Logan made me go, yeah, this guy can take on Indiana Jones. And to tell you the truth, I think Crystal Skull was kind of, as much as I defended it, you could see that maybe Spielberg was getting a little tired of doing the Indiana.
Oh, and the original Crystal Skull pitched by Frank Darabont and Jeb Stewart, Die Hard fame. Just, it sounded way much more better. It was similar to a lot of the comics and video games. The Inferno Machine, I think they called it, some shit like that. And it's like,
that game was good,
and you're just looking at the screenwriter and you're like, oh, the dude who brought us Speed 2 and Rush Hour. Yeah, I think he's got an idea of how to make a non-formulaic blockbuster. No, but I see what you mean. Crystal Skull didn't really take itself all that seriously, and I think that's just it. We wanted something that was a little more.
We want Raiders of the Lost Ark. We want Raiders of the Lost Ark. Get back to that. Give us that. Give us that feeling. But
it's a shame too, because I did like the Russian thing. So I was like, I'm wondering what the villains could be next. And I really hated how a lot of clickbait sites were going to town. Indiana Jones will feature time travel. I'm like, stop sharing, because first off, we got this covered as in comic book movie, are not review, not news sites. But then it's like, no, they're showing a later time period. And maybe a flashback, but they're not. It's not a time travel.
There's so many false reports coming out. I don't know when
Latina review is pretty bad. Giant freaking robots, another. And it's like, what? No, you didn't say that at all on Twitter.
I don't know when you're going to release this, but at the time of this recording, it was only a couple days ago. They reported that there were like 5 screenings, all with different endings, and it was getting bad. People were hating it. And then finally, James Mangold had to come forward and say there have been no screenings. So to kind of really kind of debunk it, because there's people out there, they're just reporting whatever.
Because that's their deal. They want a clickbait and they want to sit, and then the person has to finally go to town and say, okay, that's the 5th time that false report's been recirculated. So now we got to address it and say, stop. I
have a hard time believing that this is going to be a bad movie, because Mangold, from the start, he just makes great movies.
Yeah.
He makes period pieces. He makes a lot of Identity is a great, freaking mystery.
Yeah. That's what gives me hope. That's what gives me hope on this movie when I heard he was attached.
Yeah.
Even if he has an overrated actor, he gets an unusual performance out of him. So again, like Steven, he is immune to anything that might not be working. I heard about so many reshoots on Logan, and hey, it worked out.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, you would have known it.
Yeah, and then you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, because a lot of that stuff is first of all, on a lot of this stuff, they sign these things to secrecy, so you don't know what I'm hearing that's true. What's being made up. Now that you got the clickbait things, people are just making things up to get clickbait. It's why, eventually when people go to my website and they read my recommendations, they'll see that my website's 100% positive on movies.
Yeah.
Because I got tired of all the hate. Why are you hating so much? I've been involved in making movies. It's freaking hard work for you to just hate on it so somebody will click on your site.
Absolutely. Really why go on a rant and then say end of rant? I'm like, well, you've just taken up 5 pages. I think they already just tuned out with your anger,
Yeah, I just don't understand all the hate out there. I used to do movie reviews for a website that's no longer around, and I went and saw, what was it, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Michael Bay produced one.
Yeah.
And people I was in a critic screening, and people were laughing. They were having a ball. The reviews came out. It didn't reflect what was inside that theater at all. And I said to a guy that I knew gave it a lower review, I said, I thought you said you liked it. And they're like, yeah, but if I say I like this kind of movie, nobody will take me serious. And it's like, that's why Siskel and Ebert were who Siskel and Ebert were. Because Gene Siskel...
Ebert hated Gladiator. Siskel didn't care for many Schwarzenegger movies, but they were upfront about it. They're like, no, I never liked it.
I rushed out to see Under Siege 2 because Siskel, thumbs up. He really loved it.
Dark territory.
And I did not like
it. They love Speed 2 as well. So, it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. They like Speed 2 too. Cruise Control.
But then again, Ebert hated Usual Suspects and Die Hard. But it is what it is. I mean, but that's what I like. You were joking about, movies that are abandoned by their directors. Is like, I don't think Mangold is going to pull a Bryan Singer where he abandons it halfway through because he's not all that serious and on drugs. It's and yes, some of it is gossip, but generally you can kind of get a feel from that when people are just left to their own devices, and sometimes the ego is part of what makes them so good as a filmmaker. But then there are other times where it's like, geez, needless reshoots. What's going on here, buddy? Just pick a frame and go with it, especially if it doesn't really tell the story and it's just a beautiful cruise ship.
But then you can bring it all the way back around to Spielberg, who I believe almost always comes in under budget and under time.
Yeah.
Makes you
I mean, he
wonder-
practically funds most of it too. So I mean, but yes, we do need more filmmakers who can think like a line producer or like an editor, where they know
100%.
how they want it to look.
Always gets you a job.
I almost feel like when you watch,
That looks good enough. No, that's it's not
like
going.
when you watch filmmakers' first movies, they're generally better because they have low budgets. They're forced to be creative. But then you
Yes.
give them all the toys, they don't have to be creative anymore.
They don't have to worry about a second unit guy who doesn't have anywhere near their same camera guys coming in, shooting some scenery, or a third unit, or like you say, the CGI, which might ruin it otherwise.
I always ask the question, since the year 2000, name me more than 5 directors that have started their career. So after 5 directors that have started their career after the year 2000, who are great directors, because I think CGI has killed the creativity out there. And,
and the investors and the name attachment.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Ben Affleck has proven himself. I think that David Lowery has proven himself. And there's a couple of more that have proven themselves.
I actually like Neil Blomkamp a lot, even though he gets a lot of hate for Chappie. I like his general R-rated 80s sci-fi horror vibe that he does.
Right. Matt Reeves.
He uses CGI wisely.
Yes.
It's just
Matt Reeves. Yep.
Yeah, Matt Reeves. And so there's in the
and even
70s,
if I don't like every movie they do, they're real people, you know? Yeah. Because that's just it. We go for a movie that even if we do or don't care for a movie they're doing, we just see the storyboarding unfolding, you know, like it might in their head. That's what I don't like, is when I see certain movies that are just like a little soulless, you know. And don't get me wrong, we're never gonna agree on the same guys. There's plenty of people who like Abrams. I don't like Abrams. Zack Snyder seems to vary by crowd. It just seems like, and you know, we talked about Nolan earlier, is like I kind of dug his earlier mystery before he got into sci-fi,
Memento, phenomenal.
Sci-fi fully.
Yeah.
You know?
Memento, Insomnia. I mean, he was great to a certain point.
I mean, I even like The Prestige, and I know others who hate it, but I'm just like, this is like, it's.
I like it.
When he's a mystery guy, and now people want him to be the action Inception guy, and this is the fun of looking at the filmography, where, you know, because we've been talking about Steven, and I don't know if you saw the 2017. I'm sure you did, the HBO documentary about him. And I just love that line where Liam Neeson's being interviewed, and he's like, he's a painter, and he never leaves his canvas. And I'm like, that bingo. That's always how I thought of him. It's like,
and that's the genius of Spielberg, because even when we're mentioning all these directors and these great ones that are coming out, this new crop, there's certain genres that they're great at. Spielberg,
so many careers,
is just so spread.
He's just a filmmaker. That's it.
He's a filmmaker. He's an artist.
He's got a true love for the medium. He wants to make great stuff every time out. I think Tarantino's the same way. I don't think Tarantino's as good a filmmaker, but you can really sense, you know, Tarantino's love for it. Jordan Peele and Ryan Coogler, if you've ever seen him or heard him get interviewed, they got a true love for it.
Yeah, Fruitvale Station's amazing.
I think that Jordan Peele, I know everybody loves him right now, but I think he's got a masterpiece coming down the pike still.
I think he wants to be a little more tricky, and I've seen as so many other filmmakers who will come to me, I want to be like Oliver Stone, I want to be like Tarantino, I want to be like Spike Lee. I'm like, but you don't have the maturity, the patience,
and you
even
have to
the
realize
organized outspokenness of those guys, where you know how to manipulate
the movie
your audience.
Nope. I mean, the movie Nope that he did, it looks like Jaws, basically an alien Jaws in space, like over the sky. It's like you
Get Out is practically a dark comedy.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
But the thing is if you want to be Stone or Spike Lee, you got to realize the reason they are great filmmakers, and I love both of their works. I would say that they're not like anybody else.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to classify.
Tell me who Spike Lee is like. You know, you can't. He's an original. He handles things really, really well. And I love Spike Lee as a filmmaker. Same thing with Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
The only people that he's like are the people who are copying him.
There you go.
So if you want to
even
be
Michael Bay, he's a special kind of explosion. I see other people like Roland Emmerich decimate a landscape, and I'm like,
it's not the same.
I didn't feel anything that. I think you just hate America.
I think if you want to be like Oliver Stone or you want to be like Spike Lee, then you got to be unlike them and be yourself. And if you look at the 70s had, you know, people like Spielberg and Lumet and Alan Parker and Peter Weir and all these people
you brought those
in the 70s and the 80s. And when you look at them, you're not going to say Spielberg is like Sidney Lumet, although he loved Sidney Lumet as a filmmaker. You know, you find who you are. Otherwise, you just end up being somebody like Brian De Palma who copies everybody. Sorry, I hope he not.
Yeah, no, I agree. We did our De Palma
made some great movies, but like,
De Palma was a perfect example of someone, you know, who's a good filmmaker, but he's had more misses than hits, you know, and that was a perfect example because we used to think it's a numbers game. Oh, maybe they lucked out. Maybe they had a good editor. Maybe they had a wonderful cinematographer who hit all the potholes. But you're right. It is Alan Parker and LeMay and all these other guys who were just like the king is just killing it with. I miss the days of David Lean, you know, or even Antoine Fuqua and some of these other guys, Martin Campbell, are as close.
Fuqua's still around, and he's
they're as close as we get to Walter Hill type, you know, gritty character.
Yeah, but Walter Hill was another one that he's
still around too. He just came out with a new Western, but it seems like they only now can just do like an art house theater for hardcore fan bases who've always loved them all these years, and
or streaming. It goes
streaming,
which really kind of sucks because, like I said earlier with Close Encounters, that has to be seen on the big screen. Well, I feel like, you know, a lot of movies need to be seen on the big screen. I can't. What's the movie called? Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Everything,
Everywhere.
I couldn't imagine seeing that for the first time on my TV.
No, but even current projects, just to write off that, some of them feel like they're filmed now for streaming. You know what I mean? If some of them feel
anything
small,
on Netflix is just
it does.
And shot
it
in
feels
Atlanta,
like
New Orleans,
yeah,
and even a movie that I otherwise like The Old Guard, I'll be like, you can fix a few transition shots there.
And that's sad. It's sad that that's where a lot of new crop of movies are becoming now because the world feels so small
and everything's so digital. So now it gets to where it's like you don't lose, but you might lose. But then at the same time, you got to go to a good theater, or you got to go where no one's going to bring their crying baby because they're cheap and won't hire a sitter. And that's what got me the most. So I did go to even a few drive-ins during COVID. I was like, hey, see, we're not standing next to each other and we're enjoying it the old school way. You know?
Right. But I mean, there's even smaller movies out there. Like I went and saw this movie called The Banshees of Inisherin or something like that. And it's by Martin.
I know with Colin Farrell, right?
Yeah, the one with Colin Farrell, Brandon Gleeson.
Yeah, Martin McDonald. Yeah.
It's a very small movie. It's by the guy who did In Bruges, and it's a very small movie. But visually, it's kind of like, man, I am now surrounded by this world because it takes place overseas, in a place where I've never been. And because I'm watching it on the big screen, I'm surrounded by I'm literally being surrounded by this world. And it's in the real world, but it's still a different place than I'm used to. And I don't know. I watch stuff now, like my wife watches a lot of the CW shows and stuff like that, and I walk by and it all looks the same. It all feels the same. And where's the original film?
Yeah, and it sucks because there's good Canadian stuff, and everyone just sees the bad Canadian stuff that's cheap, and you're like, it's not all shot like that.
Yeah. We're just all in Vancouver. That's it.
How did Cronenberg get financing on that last movie?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned 84. That was a big year because it also introduced a friend of Cronenberg's known as Ivan Reitman's Ghostbusters. So yeah, it's like there's some good Canadian stuff, and then there's some other ones where it's like,
have you watched Ghostbusters for the first time on your television set?
I can probably do. I can see that. And now,
when the Marshmallow Man appears, it's not going to be the same. He's going to look as big as
different ranges. I always hated watching it on VHS because the tracking shots were very poorly done on videotape, and there's a lot of tracking shots. So it's like, and anytime I saw that, I could, even before I knew what it was, I could always tell that the camera angles were going at a speed they're not supposed to be going. Whether it's 30 frames per second versus 60. You can tell on older movies when jumpy. And I would always see this has been compressed to fit your screen. I'm like, I believe it because
I haven't seen the new Lord of the Rings. Is it Netflix or Amazon?
It's my favorite show this year.
Yeah, but I've walked by.
It's your favorite show. Oh my god!
Along with what's
I've walked by.
What's the one that just came
my
out?
wife's watching it, and it just doesn't look. It just doesn't look. The Lord of the Rings looks cinematic the way that when Jackson did it.
I think it depends on the TVs too. I saw it on my 1080 with the lights turned off, and I felt like I was in the cinema.
How big's your TV?
pretty big.
Like I got a 100-inch TV.
I watched it too on my 4K 70-inch TV, and I felt disappointed at times.
No, it's all good. In all fairness,
scenery wise, it's a painting, but at other moments,
I guess it's because
much.
I'm a bigger Tolkien guy. I'm familiar with Silmarillion, and I didn't feel like
same here.
I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like they were running out of material, like with every other Game of Thrones show, where they're just like, okay, so you skipped 5 chapters ahead and added all this extra softcore porn to make up for time.
Yeah,
but
I'll probably sit down and watch it one of these days because
Dark Winds is a better show, though.
I shouldn't comment on it without without
it's all good. Well, that's just it.
You know,
I wait for it to all drop.
Watch it.
Because if you do every week, yes, you will get bored. Because
it's drawn out.
You got to compress it all together. I always do 3 episodes at a time because I don't like to wait, and it makes a difference. Because I forget characters and subplots. I'm like, oh, that's right, the guy who betrayed this person or who's about to do this. So, but no, Dark Winds is probably the better one. That's a Tony Hillerman adaptation. 6 episodes, can't go wrong. AMC. I can see why Robert Redford adapted it. And as a connection to you, yes, it's George R. R. Martin is producer as well.
Okay. I'll have to put that on the list.
But yes, Mark is correct in that there are some where it's like, yeah, it's a little cheaply shot. There are some pickup shots on last season of Yellowstone where it didn't match up with the previous shot. And it was just very sloppy. Like, why do I need to see all these footage of these cowboys, racing a horse around? It's really not contributing to what's about to happen in the next scene.
I haven't seen Yellowstone yet.
I haven't either.
I
keep hearing great things.
Long story short, I saw that someone was doing a season premiere party at the Fort Worth Stockyards, and I was like, and it was a pretty packed street. So
I'd like Walter Hill to get on to bring a Western to streaming.
I know he came out with a new Western movie starring Christoph Waltz and William Dafoe.
He's best at Westerns. He's really good at Westerns. So
I think the biggest question is who will be the next Western guy. Because it seems like Mangold makes everything as a Western. But then there's all these other guys where it seems like they'll throw in just like one High Noon or Freeton to Yuma type shot and that's it. And you're like, well, it's not really a Western. It just had one, Wild West shootout.
Costner's pretty good at the Westerns, with Open Range and Wyatt Earp and
and he's working
with Clothes is kind of a Western, so
right. Even his apocalyptic movies that flopped are kind of Westerns, but Taylor Sheridan is the mind behind Yellowstone, and you might know him from his work on Wind River, Hell or High Water, and Serpico. Not Serpico. What did I really just say that? Sicario. And so it's like, he's basically a Western guy.
God, Hell or High Water. That is a great movie.
Oh yeah.
It was funny because the only thing that bothered me about it was there's a part where all these guys, there's like a chase where all these people, they just grab their guns and they get in their trucks and they go chasing after this guy. And I'm like, that doesn't feel very realistic. And I'm talking to somebody from Texas and he's like, well, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have a problem with it then.
I saw some guys trying to be sticklers. Oh, it was filmed in New Mexico, those bastards. I'm like, you would have never been able to tell. They chose a perfect small town that would look like,
It was a great movie. It really was. Yeah. And Wind River is another really great movie.
Oh, yeah. My sister even saw it twice, and she doesn't typically watch the crime movies, more than once, But I'm with you. I would love to see Spielberg do a Western, and the other guys are going to try and pass the torch to the Westerns. It's like, you might as well learn from the greats before they leave this earth,
Yeah, I can't even picture who some of these people are. Like, I think that Jordan Peele is probably going to take over the horror genre. I haven't been as big a fan of his as most everybody else. I just see so much potential there that I know he's going to do something great. But when it comes to like sci-fi, who's going to take over sci-fi? Who's going to take over the Westerns? I'm just
I'm very worried about sci-fi because everyone wants to kind of copy, Alien or Blade Runner and then just add explosions, and you're like, but you just.
I think David Lowery can take over the fantasy because Green Knight was really good, Pete's Dragon was really good. I'm looking forward to his next movie. But
he can work on fantasy. But who's the other guy? I mean, there's sometimes where it seems like people are just imitating Terry Gilliam, but they're just copying a shot. They're not really.
I'd like to see. Who's the guy who directed The Iron Giant?
Oh, Brad Bird.
Brad Bird, I'd like to see him take a Star Wars movie.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
I haven't
Right
really
back.
cared for his
I
live
gotta go to
action
the bathroom.
stuff, but I like his animated stuff. And doing Fuqua seems to kind of make everything like a Western or Sidney Lumet movie. So I mean, that's just it. It's like who are they emulating the best? You know, because they're like the second age.
I think if they let Antoine Fuqua do what he does, I think he could be the guy who makes those 70s kinds of movies, because he did that cop movie with Richard Gere,
Brooklyn's Finest.
Brooklyn's Finest, which was it was really, really fantastic.
Yeah. And he changed the ending too. Like people booed at like I think the Cons theater that he had it at, and he's like, I need to make this a little more tragic, and I need to totally change the outcome of some of these characters.
His director's cut of King Arthur is good.
Really?
I even like his first movie that he did with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, Bait.
Bait.
That was where Tony Gilroy got his start.
So the only movie of his that I haven't liked is. Yeah, I think the only movie of his that I haven't liked, and I'm not a big fan of the one he did with Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington, although I know I'm in the minority there.
No, it's fine. Training Day was a favorite growing up, but I see people shit on movies like that, and the other good got ones.
The reason I didn't like it was I felt like Denzel Washington, he was just doing James Cagney. I didn't think he was giving us anything original. And so that bothered me. But then I think the only reason I didn't like his remake of Magnificent Seven, if you want the truth, is because it wasn't as good as the other one, and I just everything you were comparing, it's like, well, that guy's not Bronson, that guy's not, you know, you're just you can't help but compare. Whereas if there hadn't been an original, we'd have probably been like, wow, that was a great movie.
Yeah. Well,
but he didn't take enough of an interesting original approach to it.
In all fairness, I was neutral because I prefer the original, which is Seven Samurai, not Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, but you know, Seven Samurai, when I watch the Magnificent Seven, I don't find myself comparing it to Seven Samurai. It's like, and I watch Star Wars, I don't find myself comparing it to Hidden Fortress. They can exist on their own.
They can.
Whereas I had a major, I couldn't.
I think it's nostalgia, I guess, because I when I say Magnificent Seven, I see awesome movie stars in a Seven Samurai remake. I just it didn't do as much for me as other westerns, but I think
a lot of those other westerns were probably Kurosawa remakes too. Fistful of Dollars, and
I know, but I remember Dollars more. I don't really, when I see Seven, I don't remember anyone's name. I just remember, hey, Charlie Bronson and company kicking ass. But I mean, it also depends on how you came about it with the movies. I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the James Bonds. Do you like them because they're fun spectacles, or do you actually like the portrayal? You know, it really does depend on, I guess, the mood.
Also, which one you maybe saw first, because like I saw Star Wars first, and then when I watched Hidden Fortress, I'm kind of, why, hey, that's Han Solo.
I mean, Hidden Fortress, he's really only just using it for characters. He's not. I mean, yes, there is a princess retrieval, but the most part, he's just doing all this other like 2001 type, you know, silence in space, you know, and then
he's what's really great about Star Wars is he's not ripping off these movies. He's using them as inspiration.
Right.
You know, they inspired these characters, and then the actors like Harrison Ford came in and really makes Han Solo his own.
And it was even more awesome how, I mean, the books that he had been inspired by then actually got greenlit, you know, because Star Wars was such a hit. So it's like, hey, I heard he was inspired by Lord of the Rings and Buck Rogers. How would we make those work?
Yeah. You get to see Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers being made.
And I love how they offered Steven to take up the, you know, Star Wars mantle, and he was just like, yeah, I directed the opening of Revenge of the Sith. That's all I need. I can't touch my friends franchise. It's his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you get movies like John Carter comes out, and everybody craps all over it because it's, oh, we've seen this before.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is the reason you've seen it before is because all these movies were inspired by the book.
Same thing with your Flash Gordon, which you told us off air, you know?
Yeah. You know, so I don't know.
Same thing with Battlefield Earth. We've seen this before. Oh.
Planet
of the Apes meets Star Trek, Star Wars. Oh.
Battlefield Earth, I haven't seen anything this bad before. What are you talking about?
I just got the Blu-ray, which has all these new special features with the writers explaining what the hell happened behind the scenes.
Oh, really? That could be interesting. Like,
I got it for $5 off eBay. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, but it could be interesting for that just to get, them talking about all the things that went wrong, as long as they're being honest. Because I believe, isn't it the criterion of Brazil, where in the audio commentary of the theatrical version, there's a guy talking about all the things that went wrong. The studios really wanted this, and Gilliam didn't want to do it.
He might have been the same one in the Friday the 13th documentary who didn't get invited back, and you're like, where did you, dude? You're just making shit up. That never happened, And what's funny is he was boycotted from so many of those conventions. I don't even know. People don't even say his name, so you have to actually ask, who's the one who people say is making inaccurate claims, like a bad Wikipedia edit. Oh man, but yeah, applause to Steven for avoiding all these tabloids and even being bound to franchises. Just one of a kind, and I'm glad we could have you all on here. So I'm gonna let you guys all. Absolutely. I'm gonna let Mark promote his blog, and I'll let Daniel and Jorge promote what they got coming up on your show. You guys have been going really strong for a year now.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah.
Let's go first.
I'll let you go first, Mark.
All right, so I do I have a website called Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. It's basically underexposedcinematictreasures.com, where I recommend movies that I feel are underseen, unseen, deserve a much bigger audience, or maybe have been forgotten.
Need exposure.
Need exposure, or just have been forgotten. At the time of this recording, my last review was for David Lowery's Pete's Dragon, because with all these Disney reboots, nobody talks about Pete's Dragon, and it's really the only really great one. But I've got movies that we've actually mentioned on the show, like Threads. I don't know of anybody who's seen Threads. It's
an interesting, much like The Day After.
And so I try to promote movies that I feel are unseen or underseen. I also ask people, so I'll ask your audience, if you go to my website or you email me at info@underexposedcinematictreasures.com and you have a movie that you think is underseen, just write me a 4-sentence review. I have a page called Fan Recommendations where I put that stuff. And so it's not just my recommendations, it's theirs. And it doesn't even have to be a movie I like. You can recommend a movie that I hate, because that page isn't about me. It's about the fans recommending what they think deserves to be there. If you want to find, I have a Facebook group. Just look up Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. On Twitter, it's actually UTC_recommends. And I just making a presence on Letterboxd under my name, which is Mark Ogusch. And come to the website, and where I've recorded a couple of podcast episodes with one of the third episode will be with Rob Paulson, who's Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, who's got a really
interesting delight, isn't
it? Yeah, he chose a really interesting film to talk about, and it's basically bringing on people who want to talk about their movies that they think are unseen.
He's been making I'm glad you got to meet him, because he's been on podcasts a lot lately. Galaxy Con. Podcasting After Dark.
He's a great guy. My answering machine message is him, and I get so many people saying, "How did you get that great impersonator?"
That's awesome.
Right.
So once again, it's called Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. I know it's long, but I spent months trying to find a URL, and that's what I ended up finding, because I had to get this thing out. And so go enjoy.
Sweet.
Email me or go to the Facebook group or email us. There's also a contact page. Your movie that you want to talk about. 4-sentence review. Thank you.
All right, Jorge and Daniel, you have also done it all. You have done actor retrospects. You did one to Bruce Willis that was very... you're talking with 5 other podcasts that were doing this around the time he was retiring. It's like, hey, we really love Bruce Willis. But you've done predictions. You've done what's next for MCU. You've tackled a bunch of other movies based off tropes. And best and worst, you movies. It's fun digging through your unpredictable maze of findings.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
And again, you've been doing this a whole year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to say that, but we've been doing it for a year. We've been bringing on some more people that have been kind of staples and become permanent with us. We're starting to do some more spin-off podcast shows, and we just try to do, there's a lot of film podcasts out there, so we just try to make it unique by doing our own perspective on it. we've all done film to some expectation, different roles, different stuff we've done. So we're kind of giving our own filmmaker's point of view about some of these films, how we kind of see everything thematically. George and I are even doing our own spin-off that's gonna. Yeah, absolutely. So George and I are actually going to be doing a spin-off show. George, if you want to talk about that one a little bit.
Yeah, you guys actually bringing up the fact of like Siskel and Ebert. I love Siskel and Ebert growing up, and I love having those deep conversations about film and why we like them and what's the true breakdowns of like the anatomy of a film. And so me and Dan, who are we're all film buffs, so I think me and Dan are the analytical film buffs of the group.
Yeah.
We want to go do a show where we kind of do that, where we break down film from that perspective. And it's not going to have an agenda behind it. It's just objective breakdowns of like, this is just the ABCs of why this works and why it doesn't work from every angle, whether it's directing, acting,
editing,
cinematography, editing, all that kind of stuff, screenwriting.
Just like, what's his name? Who does I think it's Ralph, somebody who does a lot of the one-on-ones, why this song works. Like he's doing everything. He's even recreating it himself because he's studied it enough times. So it is cool to just kind of see that, because so many people will do like scene recreations, and you'll see all the snobby YouTube things. It's like, hey, it's someone giving it their best shot at something they admire. You know, it's just the equivalent of a cover song, and we do need more of that, because so many people just want to see a screen rant.
People will react positively to that with movies as well. A couple of years ago, for 6 years, I did a podcast called Talking Apes TV, and basically what we did is what you're talking about, but with the Planet of the Apes TV show. And we would go through each episode, and it started where we'd go through an episode in like a half hour, and then the last episode we did took like 2 hours and 10 minutes, and we would go through we literally went scene by scene, breaking down what we saw and thematically what this meant, and this and how, and it actually helped me as a filmmaker, because you start to realize, oh, look at all the thinking that really went into this stuff. And so I did that for 6 years. We did
what the subplot means. You even broke down the recent graphic novel, and you're like, I think this unites this with that version of the whole timeline, and so therefore that's probably why that character's there, just like they were in that version of the movie, you know?
Yeah, I don't think people realize the thought that goes into certain things, and how, this thing that happens at the 5-minute point is so important to what happens at the 90-minute point.
Even anything, they just think, it writes itself. It's like the name. It's like, well, regardless of what the title is. Do you guys have a name for the podcast yet?
It's going to be Cinema Brains.
I'm writing it down because it sounds like something I'd really listen to. So
yeah, absolutely. And then the name of our podcast is Not a Strong Start. So we're gonna everything's gonna be under that YouTube channel. So we're gonna have our different playlists of our different spin-off shows. But that one, the Cinema Brains, we're actually looking to be dropping soon. So we're gonna start doing that.
All right. Have a website where all this is located?
Everything right now is just on our YouTube, but
Twitter,
Twitter, Instagram. We have our link tree, and it has all of our everything on it that you can find us at.
Alrighty, looking forward to it. Not a strong start, and once again, Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. Check them out, guys. Check them both out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up